The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. I'm thrilled to be here with you. There's so many things for us to talk about today. Excuse me, now I'm going to cough. So many things to talk about, but we're going to get right to a couple of important things. We're thrilled to be here with you. We're here at the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California, coming to you live. And this is the home for Autism Live, but it's also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And we want you to know that because I love CARD. And the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. My son was treated by them, and whew, it made all the difference. We are knee deep in our festival of toys. You cannot see what I've got around me, but I want just on the floor all around the studio. We have toys everywhere. And starting today and continuing on until our last show of the month, we are going to be reviewing toys and showing you some of the great toys that we compiled into a toy guide. You can get to it on our blog. So before we get too far afield, I want you to know that you can interact with us for the next 2 hours, and Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate. And in the middle of this, I'm going to tell you how to get to that blog that gets you to the toy guide. So while you're seeing all the different ways that you can interact with us, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. And I always say to you, there's lots of things to do when you go there. And one of them is that you can click on the triangle to watch the live show or the most recently recorded live show, and that you can interact with us on the live feature that's on the side. All you have to do is put your cursor there, hit enter, or type and hit enter. That's the order you should do it, not hit enter first. Put your cursor there, type, and then hit enter. And then it shows up here on my screen, and you and I can have a conversation. And better than that, you can have a conversation with our experts. So one of the other things that you can do on that site is, if you look at that top row up at the top on the header, there's a place that says blog. If you click on the blog, that will take you to our most recent blog, which talks about our toy guide. And at the bottom of that blog is a link. If you click that, it takes you directly to the toy guide, and you can print it, take it with you. There's 5 different areas that we focus on. There are infants and babies, there's preschool kids, then there's school age, then there's teens and tweens, and then there's adults. And in among each one of those categories, we have a wide range of toys. So there's going to be something for everybody on your list. And there's reasons why we love these toys, and that's why we do the Festival of Toys, to talk about why we love these toys. But don't forget that if you are in the Los Angeles area, this Saturday is Autism Live's 3rd annual Sensitive Santa. We do this in conjunction with the We Rock the Spectrum fabulous kids gyms. And you have to register. We still have tickets. We've never had an instance, we added more tickets, and we've never had an instance before where this short few days before that we had tickets left. They're free. So all you have to do is register for the child who's on the spectrum and any other children that they're bringing with them. They all get to play in the gym. There's no waiting in line. They get to play in the gym, and then we get them on the equipment, and they have a spectacular time. And then we, in order, take them to go visit with Santa, and they all get a wrapped toy. So that's a pretty fabulous thing. And the toys this year, the toy manufacturers, the toys they gave us, they're just amazing. And most of them are toys that we're featuring here on the show in the next few days. So definitely, if you're in the Los Angeles area, you want to register, go to Eventbrite and look up Autism Live Sensitive Santa 2017, and you can register for your free tickets. I'm talking too long. Samantha's going to get a hook and take me out because we need to go as quickly as we can. We don't have, I apologize, we do not have live in the studio Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, but we have the next best thing, which is Dr. Granpeesheh recorded live. So we're going to share that with you in a minute. And then at the top of the hour, I'm going to be back with Nancy Allspot Jackson. We're going to be live in the studio with our very special guest, Milena Ramasa from Convade and R82. And they have an amazing new car seat out that we wanted them to come back on the show and show you this new car seat. It's called the Wallaroo. And my understanding is that there is a period of time in which if you buy a Wallaroo that you're going to get a special free gift. So you're going to want to hear all about that. If you're wanting to keep a child with special needs safe in your back seat, you're going to want to hear from these folks. So we're going to go to all of that. But first, before anything else, it's time for Ask Dr. Doreen. I am here with the fabulous, the wonderful Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, and good morning. And it's wonderful to be here with you.
Thank you very much.
For those of you who are joining us maybe for the first time, Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a true expert in the field of autism. I believe the preeminent expert in the field of autism. She has been working in this field for more than 30 years and has worked with individuals from very young babies up through senior citizens. She has been a driving force of looking at the whole individual when other people weren't and segmenting it out. She was a voice of reason saying this is a whole person who has a medical history and has biochemistry that's going on with them and behavior.
Right.
Excuse me. And she has also, I think, been at the forefront of looking at what's happening with the families. And I have yet to meet somebody who's more compassionate than you are to the families, which is no small thing in this field.
I don't know how you cannot be compassionate when you, as you know, when we read these types of questions, it's just heart-wrenching sometimes.
It is, and I have a hard time explaining to people what it is like for families when they have no idea what dealing with autism is, and how hard it can be on a family, and how unrelenting it can be for some of these families because,
oh my gosh,
because no one, even in the early, I'm very blessed, as you know, because of the treatment that my son got at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm extremely blessed, and I'm reminded of that every single day. But I do remember that even in the earliest days when Jem was diagnosed, when people were telling me it's going to be okay and he's going to be okay, you're just going to have to do, a lot of work, but
right.
It's going to be okay. In that moment, you don't know that.
Right.
And I remember what that felt like.
Absolutely.
And I remember thinking, I can't make it through this.
Right.
And I know a lot of other parents that feel that way or have felt that way or that have written in today and feel that way.
The fear, I mean, what you talk about, Shannon, is very real. Obviously, it's the fear when they're very young, right, of like what is going to happen and how long is this going to go on. And then, and in some cases, as you know, there's, many things come together and the child progresses and gets to a point where it's more manageable and as in, for instance, Jem's case, do very well. Some of the children do very well and life goes on.
Yes.
And in some cases, things don't change and it's has nothing at all to do with parents, but it has a lot to do with just everything, where you live, like the time that, if you were 30 years ago, you wouldn't have any kind of funding. Even right now, when there is funding, depending on where you live and what access you have, you might get completely derailed by the wrong provider. You might have so many health issues. I mean, it's just such a puzzle, as we know. And then it just becomes incredibly difficult for the entire family. And sometimes when I read some of these things, and it breaks my heart because I have seen the very severe teenagers or so on, and I have seen I can't, I just don't know what I said to you before we went live. I said, I don't know how some of the families can manage it. And it's so many years, it's 20 years of just difficult behavior and just challenges throughout. And then not to mention the marriages falling apart, siblings not having any attention or time. I mean, it's an incredible burden on the families. It's incredible. And they're really, even though we've gotten much better, I just strongly feel we don't have enough help. We just don't provide enough help.
And I know that you are at the forefront of trying to get more help to more people.
Absolutely.
And I do think it's important while we're talking about this to say that progress is available to really, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, all of our children. What that progress is and what the end point is will look different for every single child, but every single child, I believe, can make progress in some area.
Right.
And it's important to get yourself to the point where you can get the progress, and sometimes that's the hard deal.
Definitely.
But that's part of why we're here,
Absolutely.
to help in whatever way that we can, to help people
Absolutely.
to get to that progress that they deserve and need.
Right.
So I always like to give a disclaimer at the top of the show that you guys can write in your questions, but there is no possibility that any expert, including Dr. Graham-Pichet, can give individual specific advice. So when you write in, be as specific as possible and know that she's going to give you information of a general nature, which is not meant to take the place of getting an appointment and being seen by somebody in person. But hopefully the information that she will give you will help to make that appointment much more effective, because you'll have more information of who to go to, where to go to, and what to say when you get there.
Right.
And you guys write in overwhelmingly how helpful it is. Sometimes when it isn't even your question, I love when people say, I learned from somebody else's question.
That's fantastic.
It is amazing. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in. Dear Dr. Doreen, I think my 9-year-old is addicted to his iPad. He is an only child, and we have been letting him use it for longer and longer periods, and now it's taken over all of his free time. He gets in the car ride back from school and all the way to bedtime. At what point of his day do we start cutting back, and how? He yells, screams, and tantrums when he loses access and when he has to transition off. It's bad. He has PDD, NOS, and anxiety. We need help. I think it needs to be a gradual process, or it will be very difficult. Thank you in advance for your plan. And I picked this one first because I think there's a lot of people who can relate to this.
Right. And actually, I just quickly had an opportunity to read all of these, and the last one is pretty much going to be the same answer.
Okay, so should we talk about that as well? Then
Yeah,
at the same
sure.
time?
Because the last one, although the behavior that we're talking, the antecedent to the behavior is completely different. In this case, it's use of the iPad, and taking the iPad away results in major tantrums and yelling and screaming. The last question, it's the issue of not having a parent in his room when he wakes up. And
should I go ahead and read that?
Sure.
This one was emailed to us, and it's somebody that we've talked to previously before on the show. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. Hope you both keeping well. I've been in touch with you before regarding my 12-year-old son who has a diagnosis of autism, ADHD, and also suffers from anxiety. He takes 40 milligrams of, I don't know how to say that word.
Yeah, Equisim XL, 2 milligrams of guanfacine, 8 milligrams melatonin, 25 milligrams Phenergan, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And myself and my husband take turns to lie on a camp bed in my son's room at night as he needs reassurance to be able to settle into sleep. When he falls asleep, we go back into our own bed, but he wakes every night and is unable to settle back to sleep, and so the shouting begins, and he demands one of us back into his bedroom. I'm at the point now that I just don't know how to tackle this issue. I'd really appreciate any help and advice you give. And again, so, these seem like totally separate things.
But they're not. No, absolutely. Because what we're looking at here, Shannon, is it's actually, I love these questions because this is going to really apply to a lot of people listening right now. So the behavior in question is basically tantruming, shouting, screaming, etc. And in either case, it's a different thing that the individual wants, but it is always something that they want. It's so they're in the first case, the child wants to have their iPad. So this is a tangible situation. So the function of the behavior is a tangible. They want the iPad, so they tantrum. And when they tantrum, usually in order to avoid the tantrum, we will give the child the iPad. In the other situation, it is they want you, the parent, to be in their room. So again, it's a tangible, it could be also considered attention. But nevertheless, what they want is you to come back into their room. And when they tantrum, you go in their room.
Right.
So in both circumstances, the child is actually using ABA to shape your behavior. It's not the other way around. That what your child is doing is, instead of saying, I want my iPad, or instead of saying, I want you to come stay with me, they're screaming, tantruming, etc. And then you give in and go in, and or give them the iPad. So in both scenarios, that communication of the tantrum is quite effective. It works.
Yeah.
Because every time the child tantrums or screams or cries, you actually give the child what they want.
And can we just pause for a second to say, because I know a lot of times people go, oh, it's my fault.
Right.
Can we just say this does not make you a bad parent?
Not
that
at
you
all,
did
not
that?
at all.
Because at some point when our children came out, they cried and we knew to change their diaper, and it set up a circumstance that we
That's right.
that we got used to and they got used to.
That's right. In
And
fact,
now we need to switch it.
Absolutely. In fact, it's funny because I learned this from a parent. I remember having this conversation many years ago, and I don't remember which parent it was, but it was a mom, and we were discussing the whole concept of, I was saying, at some point you have to realize that crying and tantruming and so on is no longer an effective communication. It's not an appropriate way for your child to communicate with you. And she said to me something like, oh yeah, you're right, because when they're born, exactly what you said, when they're born, we are, as moms, obviously all of us, Shannon, we're trained to figure out, what is this cry?
Yeah.
Is this a hunger cry? Is this a I am wet cry? Is this a I just need to be picked up and whatever it is cry? What type of cry is this? And so we're trained by the universe to just become very attuned to what's going on with my child. If they cry, I have to figure out what's wrong and give in.
Yeah.
And that is a completely appropriate form of communication for the baby, for the infants, because there is no language. Once language develops, obviously with typically developing kids, we tend to then depend on, then you have the 2-year-old who will cry, and what's the first thing we'll say? Use your words, right?
Yes.
Use your words. And so the child learns that crying doesn't work, using words does work. And then they'll use their words, and you'll say, okay, see how much better that was? Now we can fix it this way. And so we teach our kids. With our children who have a diagnosis, whether it's ASD or something else, we tend to, A, we have so much guilt around it as parents, B, we have so much empathy, and we just feel horrible for our children, so we never really want to put more on them. We just want to take their burden away, right? I mean, we do that with our typically developing kids as good moms. So basically what we do is we want to help them. And by helping them, unfortunately, what we do is we enable them.
Yeah.
And this has nothing to do with autism. This is 99% of parenting is this. It is extremely hard for all of us to not respond to tantruming and inappropriate forms of communication and to prompt the child to communicate properly. It's very difficult for us. So what happens with this child who wants his iPad, and this is a child with PDD-NOS, so this is a child who actually can communicate, but what he's learned is probably, what I'm guessing, is in both cases, the child has said, I want my iPad back, and parents have said, no, you've had it too long all day, and the child has thought to himself, well, this is, who cares? I don't care if I've had it all day. I'm in a tantrum. I'm going to freak out. I'm going to scream.
Yeah.
And
I have nothing to lose, because if you're not going to give me my iPad and it's the thing I want, then there's nothing to lose.
I'm just going to put all out. Yeah, I'm going to make you so uncomfortable wherever we are, in the car or at home or whatever, that you eventually give me the thing that calms me down. And that is the key to it.
Yeah.
Now, to reverse the process, and this is, again, this is not blame. This is an analysis of the way behavior is modified. That's just what happens with behavior. Now, to reverse things, it's just really clear. What you have to do is not give the thing that is being requested through the inappropriate manner, and instead allow the child to have a tantrum. There's really nothing wrong with having a tantrum. It is more stressful for you as the parent than it is for the child. If this behavior becomes ineffective, then you will have reversed the process. So in other words, if the child tantrums and you do not give the iPad, if the child tantrums through the night and you do not go back in, I promise you, it might take 1 day, it might take 2, it might take 3, it won't take longer than 3. The child will figure out, this is not working. I need to figure out a different way to communicate. And essentially throughout the process, what you will do is now we'll set up a different way to communicate. The first child, I'm pretty sure, is verbal, because this is a PDD diagnosis. The second child may or may not be verbal, I don't know. But regardless, it's very likely that you can even set up a nonverbal system of communication, and I'll talk about them separately. But essentially what you have to do is you have to say, tantruming doesn't work, but if you ask for it, you'll get it, but only for a period of time. And that doesn't apply now to the second child. The first child, with the iPad, essentially what you're doing is, it's real simple. You pick 3 times of the day, an hour each, and I know you're trying to go easy on it. I don't recommend doing this, reverse fading it, because that's going to take forever. What I really recommend is that you just decide on 3 periods of time that your child is allowed the iPad. Doesn't matter what they are, you decide, but no more than an hour each, or, so in other words, if one of those intervals is 30 minutes, you still used an interval, okay? That don't turn it into 4. 3 times a day, and that's that. So let's say the car ride, if that's something you want, a little bit of time before bedtime, and then maybe another time when he comes home from school. I don't know. You pick 3 times, and I'm being generous with 3 times, 3 hours a day, and then we're going to reduce from there. But 3 hours a day is maximum, and you just say, and you set a timer, and you say you can have the iPad. When the timer goes off, you take the iPad. Let your child scream and tantrum. Let your child scream and tantrum. Do not interact. Do not interact. Do not give the iPad back if he is still screaming and tantruming. Do not give the iPad back if he is screaming and tantruming. Let the time frame go to the next interval that is allowed. At the beginning of the next interval, if your child has calmed down, then please prompt the child to say, can I have my iPad, please? Give him the iPad for an hour, set the timer again. That's it. You set the rules, and those are the rules, and that's what you live with. And the only reason that this is any different from the last child, the other child, is because giving the child an iPad to play with is relatively appropriate. It's just the duration of time that has become inappropriate, and that's what you're cutting down on. Now with the other child, parent having to go back in is not appropriate. No level of it is appropriate. So it's a little bit different. What you have to do is just allow the child to continue to have a tantrum through the night. I know it's a horrible thing to say, but you've been losing sleep for God knows how long. If you do it for a week, it'll be over. It'll be over. Your child will actually fall back asleep. It's just a matter of preparing the household so that other children are not disturbed. Your child may ultimately get out of bed and try to come to your room. So you're not going to get much sleep. What you have to do is literally stand outside or sit outside his or her room and let the child, and keep directing the child back into their room so that they don't, the child has to learn that in the middle of the night I'm going to stay asleep. And you have so much medication giving to this child, so much medication. 8 milligrams of melatonin, I mean, that's a lot just right there. There is really, you have enough going on. This has become a habit. It's not that the child can't sleep. And also, even if the child can't sleep, the appropriate alternative is for the child, if he wakes up, to stay in his own room until the morning. When it is morning, let's say early morning, even if you want, 6 a.m., you can go in, take care of the child, do whatever it is, but that's it. You do not go in after the child's in bed. You wait until 6 a.m. That's it. And it's tough, you guys. I'm not saying it's easy. I did this myself with my third child. I used to sit outside the room and I would not allow her to come out, and I would not allow anyone to go in, and she would scream and tantrum for sometimes, it's, and 5 minutes feels like 50 minutes. And it's a horrible experience. It is not fun. It is not fun. I sat outside the room crying when she was young. And my husband used to come and say, "Are you crazy? This is what you teach other people to do. Why are you crying?" And I would say, it tears your heart out when you hear your child tantruming like that. So I completely understand, but there's no getting around it. There's just no getting around it. There's no shaping of this behavior. The rules are being controlled right now by the child. You have to make the rules very, very clear.
Okay, so before you do either of these interventions,
get ready.
Yes, you have to get mentally ready, physically ready, and the physical space has to get ready to do that. Mm-hmm. So that if the child is going to be staying in their room, you have to make sure that there is nothing that they can harm themselves within the room.
Correct.
So that you don't have to worry about that. If you're going to be sitting
or physical or property damage,
right?
Nothing that they can throw, like if there are windows and such. If a child has a major tantrum, it is possible for them to get really upset and throw something through the window.
Okay.
So you just kind of want to cover things up and be very safe for a few nights.
And you got to get enough rest so that you can follow through with it. And that might mean that you have to tag team with somebody, right, whether it's the significant other or you invite your best friend over and say, "I need for you to be here during the day. I'm going to sleep during the day so I can be up for this at night."
That's right.
I mean, these are the things that I know myself from when Card would tell me, okay, this is what you'd have to do.
Yes.
There's the famous story of me yelling at Art Wilkie because he was showing me what to do when my son, I would put him into his car seat after the grocery store, he would be tantruming. And I was supposed to leave the store when he tantrum and put him in his car seat. But when I would have my hands on him to get him in the car seat, he would pummel my head until I would hear bells. And it was bad. And Art was explaining to me how to do it. And I yelled at Art and I said, "Where is my purse in this scenario?
Yeah.
Don't show me how to do an intervention unless you're doing, and I have a purse. You don't have a purse. You don't know." Art, who is like the Santa Claus.
He's like the sweetest guy in the world.
He's the sweetest man in the world. And I yelled at him in a clinic room because he didn't have a purse. And he looked at me and he said, "Oh, is that what the problem is?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Oh, would you be willing to wear a fanny pack during this intervention?" And I went, "Yes." Because it hadn't occurred to me.
Sure.
And when you are underslept and under stress, you don't think of all the things that you have to do to be prepared to do the intervention.
And nobody likes being told to not console your child.
Well, I mean,
that automatically puts
wrong.
us on defense.
Yes.
It's like, no, you're wrong. How can I not console my child?
It feels totally wrong. But that's okay because you have written in and said you want the help, you want to know what to do, and this is what works. But I'm just going through all the things that you're going to have to do to get yourself mentally, because you cannot do these interventions. You are going to cry. I think it's good to have somebody that a friend that doesn't live where you live, that you've got one friend that's there and one that you can call on the phone. In fact, that's depicted on the A Word, where the mom gets on the phone and says, he's crying and I want to go in there, and the friend talks her off the ledge. You got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and get ready, armament.
Absolutely.
To do even to the point where if for the sleep, if you're going to be sitting outside the door and not allow him to come out, you might want want to get a couch cushion or
Right,
something that
right.
you hold up
Right.
so he can't hit you.
Right.
And he can't get past you, and that you know, think about it from every possible angle to get yourself ready, and don't do the intervention until you've got those
Right.
things in place, because it needs to be successful.
Absolutely. Now, I hesitate to say this because I worry that by saying this, both moms might stretch it a little bit. But here's what I'm going to say. There is a way to shape it a little bit. A little bit. Like I'm going to. So for the first mom, for example, she's asking what time frame should we cut back on. What you could do is you could you could reduce it to, let's, instead of saying these are the 3 time frames, like you could shape one of the 3 and then shape the other 2. But honestly, and also with this mom, like you could go in a little earlier, like 5 a.m. or something. But honestly, my experience is when it's gotten to the point where the child is shaping your behavior, when the child is tantruming, it's just cleaner if you bite the bullet and do it right from the get-go, which basically means just set the time frames that are okay with you and deal with it.
And I'll say this too, that once you get yourself all ready and you align your friends and family and go, this is what we're doing and this is how we're doing it, then, and you've gotten the rest to be able to do that, you also mentally need to prepare for the fact that it is going to get worse before it gets better. There will be an extinction burst.
There will be, yes. And here's what an extinction burst is. It's the child thinking, wow, this behavior used to work. How come I'm not getting the results that I expected? I'm going to increase this behavior. So the tantrum will become louder, longer, and more aggressive.
Yeah.
Just expect that.
And I always liken it
before it goes away.
I always liken it to the fact, you know, I'm an adult, I have a master's degree, and I will go into my bathroom and I'll turn on the light switch and I have an expected response that the light will come on in the bathroom. But I have one bathroom light that sometimes it's like we've had it replaced. I don't know, it's wonky. But when I turn on the bathroom switch and it doesn't come on like it's supposed to all the time, I don't go, I guess the bathroom light switch isn't working. What I do is stand there and push it up and down like 42 times really quickly. That's, I'm just being honest. I mean, that's that, and because behaviorally, that is an extinction burst. I know it's worked before, so I figure if I do it 42 times, it's suddenly going to come on. And if you think to yourself, when your child is coming at you, you know, arms, legs, teeth, and they're like, you know, I'm going to get what I want. If you think to yourself, okay, all this is right now is he's flicking the light switch up and down until he's 100% positive that it's not going to work. And the thing that one of the card therapists said to me when I was in the middle of my son with an extinction burst, he said to me, be excited about the fact that you know that you have found exactly what's going on and the intervention is working because this is expected.
Definitely.
And if you will follow through, this could be the last time you have to do this.
Yes.
And that got me through. I was like, oh, okay, this is expected and this could be the last time and your life will get better.
Definitely. Oh my gosh. But, you know, I think the biggest part of this, Shannon, is someone to take you away when this happens. Like, you really need control. That is just, you know, when our hearts start to tear apart because we're hearing our child scream.
Yes.
You got to walk away from it. You have to resist. It's almost like our brains go into, I will find an excuse to go in there.
Yeah.
Oh, there must be something wrong.
Yes.
I have to go and check and so on.
And you could put a camera in there.
Put a
with
camera
a baby
in there.
monitor.
That's right. That's the best way. So you don't actually physically have to go in there. Don't engage in conversation. That's the other part of an extinction process is if your child starts trying to negotiate about the iPad or negotiate about you having to go into the room, don't engage. There's no negotiation. There's no response here. The time frame will start when you say it starts and it ends when you say it ends. It's hard. It's hard.
It's very hard. Jim and I used to do tag team where literally we would, you know, tag in and tag out, and you could tag when I could see that he was starting to go, my husband, where it was not going to be good for him, I would say, you know, tag my turn. And so you could tag the other person, or you could say, I need a tag.
It's pretty amazing. It works. Yeah, it's really incredible. If you follow through, it really, really works. And people say, do I have to go to this extreme? Just because you've gotten to an extreme situation right now, just because when the typical age was developing, the child didn't have the understanding or comprehension. This is what happens. I mean, this is a lot of times what happens in real life with all of our kids. So you got to be tough.
But when you get through it, it's so empowering, and you go, "Whoa! If changing what I'm doing can change this,
Yes.
what else can we change?" And you will be excited. And honestly, your relationship with your child will be so much better because it's so much more efficient to get your needs met other ways than tantrums. And that's a great lesson we give our kids.
Oh my gosh, it's probably the most valuable thing, honestly, that you can do for your child, because otherwise, think about the fact that right now your child has learned to tantrum to get what they want from you. Imagine how much of a hard time they're going to have through life. I mean, you might be the person that gives in. Ultimately, tantruming is not going to be an effective mode of communication for your child. So you're teaching your child, hey, this doesn't work.
Right.
You got to figure out other ways to make what you want known. And, that's language.
It is a powerful thing. And I will say this, we talked already about how you have to get ready, and we talked about it with the child who won't sleep. But for the mom who has the iPad, same thing for you. Don't plan on starting this intervention on a day when you have to be at a birthday party and you have a business appointment and your mother-in-law is coming over. Clear the decks. It's a lot like potty training, where you set aside a weekend and go, that's all we're doing this weekend is potty training.
Definitely.
So, if it's that you want to practice going to the grocery store and trying the iPad in the car for the grocery store, don't actually have to need the groceries that you were going for.
Right. Absolutely.
Because you may not make it.
And if you have any other questions, please write in and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. We should take a break, and then we're going to be back with more questions after these messages.
Hi guys, welcome back. For the month of May, I thought it'd be really neat if we made our own bird feeders. What's cool about it is once it's done and it's hung in your front yard, backyard, balcony, or whatever outdoor area that you have, your kids will be able to observe the bird feeder and tap when they see birds coming over and feeding from it. Like, oh my gosh, oh, so exciting. Do you see that? Sorry, I got distracted. I'm just so excited about all the different birds I've been seeing now that I have a bird feeder hanging outside. Anywho, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are 2.5 cups of birdseed, half a cup of boiling water, 2 packets of unflavored gelatin, a spatula, twine, scissors, wax paper, and cookie cutters. Alright, now that you got your materials, it's super easy. I have my boiling hot half cup of water, and I'm going to take my 2 packets of unflavored gelatin, and I'm going to pour them in and stir it. The reason I pour it in the water first all by itself is to make sure that the gelatin dilutes really well and I can stir it up real nicely. Now that it's been all stirred together, I'm going to take this liquid and pour it into the birdseed, making sure to scrape up all the gelatin that we diluted. Now I'm just going to stir it all up. Okay, now that this is all mixed up, I'm going to take my wax paper and put it on my table just so I don't make a mess. And then I'm going to take my cookie cutter and lay it down. I'm also going to take a piece of string and cut it, about 6 inches long. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the cookie cutter halfway full with our birdseed mixture. And then I'm going to take my string, fold it in half, I'm going to place it in the center. This way you can hang this up once it's done and dry. Now that it's full, I'm just going to pack it in. So now that this is all compacted, it's going to take about 6 hours for the gelatin to get completely hard. If you take it out too soon, the whole thing's going to fall apart. So let's wait a little bit and I'll see you guys in a few moments. All right, it's been 6 hours now, so let's see if this little guy worked out. So I'm just going to pull him up and pop him out, okay? And here's my finished bird feeder. All you have to do now is hang it outside and wait for all the great things you're gonna see. Like, oh, I see another bird. This is so exciting. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the activity and keep me up to date with all the different birds that you and your child see outside your property. Until next time, craft on. Bye, guys.
Can you see me? Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We've got a lot of questions that are coming in. We're going to try to deal with as many of them as possible. But a question that came in our live feature. Hello, I have a sensory question. My 8-year-old son likes to jump off ledges and short walls and likes to land hard on his feet. Do you know what he is seeking with this behavior? His teachers report he does this at school as well. How can we incorporate it with breaks in the classroom? He likes to avoid his classwork and jump around. He yells when he's told to get back to work.
Okay, so there's a couple of different things here. The fact that he likes to avoid his classwork is the most important thing here. And whether he avoids it and while he's avoiding it, he's jumping or doing something else, it doesn't really matter. The bottom line is he cannot avoid his classwork. So there has to be a process where I don't know, somebody can time and see how long he does classwork before he starts to do other things like jumping around, and that'll be his baseline. And so let's say it's 5 minutes, and so at 5 minutes you will want to reward him and give him a very short break, and then gradually what you'll do is in the classroom or whatever it is, you'll extend it and make it 6 minutes, and someone has to stay there and say, one more minute, and so that he extends it to 6 minutes, and at 6 minutes he'll get a reward, then at 8 minutes, then at 10 minutes, and so on and so forth. As long as he frequently gets rewards and is not allowed to participate in some other, to engage in some other activity that is not allowed at that time, he'll be fine. He'll focus on his work. Now the jumping issue is completely different. We're making a lot of assumptions here. We're assuming that he likes to land hard on his feet, which essentially means that he likes the sensation of how it feels on his feet when he lands. We don't know this. He could also here are 3 other options. One is he could also like the visual sensation that he gets as he jumps. So what it looks like when he's jumping and objects and what he sees as he's jumping. Another alternative could be he likes the sound of when he lands and the thump. And finally, another alternative could be he just likes to do whatever will get him out of sitting in class. So there's a lot of assumptions there. Let's first get the sitting in class and paying attention thing dealt with. And then we'll see if he continues to jump around and jump off of ledges when demands are not placed. Because you realize when demands are placed and the child engages in something else, it doesn't necessarily mean they like the something else. It just means they don't like the demand, so they're trying to do something else to avoid following through with what's being demanded of them.
Okay, and then let us know how that goes. Okay, I want to go to a question that came in on our Facebook Live. It's going to take me a second to bring it back up.
Sure.
Melissa has written in and said, I had a bad experience when my son, with my son with ABA. He's now 15, excuse me. Very well behaved, but scripting is an issue. Would the new ABA model help him?
Yeah. 15, I don't know what ABA you received because not a lot has changed over the last 10 years, let's say, or 12 years or so. So perhaps you just received ABA from someone who wasn't very experienced or didn't know what they're doing 10 years ago. But part of ABA, to address the scripting portion, part of ABA is what we call generalization. So anything that you learn, you have through let's say, it starts out being quite scripted, which is very much kind of giving practice the ability to practice, but everything that is learned goes to generalization across environments, across people, across stimuli. Like we really generalize, you're supposed to really generalize so that the child can do what they just learned with different people in different settings, using different stimuli, using different materials or the materials that are in the real world. So it goes to a natural environment setting so that it doesn't become scripted. It becomes quite normal. It's similar to when you first read, any individual, when they first read, they're going, this question is, right, it looks very scripted, and then over time you become fluent. Fluency is the process of not being scripted anymore, and that's the end process of everything you learn in ABA. So if someone didn't do that properly, I can understand that the child would be scripted. But otherwise, I mean, there's also a lot of people who don't follow the actual rules of ABA. Many years ago, let's say 30 years ago, the whole concept of identifying a function wasn't really there when ABA first started. It was just a matter of looking at, it was Skinner's black box concept. So it was like, if a good behavior occurs, reinforce it. If a bad behavior occurs, punish it, right, or remove the reinforcer. So it wasn't so much about finding out what was the reason this bad behavior occurred. It was just like, this is a behavior that's not acceptable, we're not going to allow any reinforcers. And now it's a little bit different. It's like, if this behavior is not acceptable, what is the child trying to communicate? Let's replace it with whatever the child's appropriate mode of communication is, so we can reinforce that. It has generally become a lot more positive, I would say, but that change must have occurred 20 years ago, you know what I mean? So it's been a long time that we're looking at function of behavior. So, I would say, please don't give up on ABA. Please go back in, and ABA is incredibly effective, even for a 15-year-old. It doesn't really matter. It's effective for all people at all ages.
Wonderful. I want to turn now to a question that came in on our YouTube channel. DCR says, my son hates taking pictures. How can I help him with this? He's now 6 years old. He has never liked taking pictures. He says he doesn't like seeing himself or his face. Sometimes I feel he doesn't like what he sees.
I think sometimes we assume things. I'd want to find out a little bit more. Does he look in the mirror? Because that's where you really see yourself. The thing about pictures could be a multitude of other things. Like I would caution you to not come to certain assumptions about it. He's 6. It's, at 6, we don't have a very strong image of ourselves and what we like and don't like yet. That kind of stuff starts happening more in the teen ages. So perhaps at some point he may have had a bad experience with pictures. Like, it could be something as simple as a flash scared him, an unexpected picture of him. Someone showed him a picture in order to say something that made fun of him or that made him uncomfortable. I don't know, but let's first find out, can he look at himself in a mirror? Because if he does look at himself in a mirror, then we know that it has nothing to do with self-image. It has more to do with just the act of taking a photo. And then if we assume that taking a photo is a difficult process for him, then you do a simple shaping process. And the shaping process would just be, you start with just holding the camera in front of him. Also, is it with a phone or is it with a camera? You have to find those things out. Anyway, you would just do this, and then over time you would gradually make it a much more reinforcing process. That's a shaping procedure. But you would then make sure it's not with a flash. You would then allow him to take pictures, get comfortable with the flash, use the flash at different times so he sees the flash. So we kind of have to find out a little bit more about what exactly is it, what feature, what aspect is it that he's averse to.
Okay, wonderful. I want to go to this question. Hi, this question is for Dr. Doreen. My son just turned 2 in late April. He started speech therapy, OT, in November of 2016, and behavioral therapy, ABA-based behavioral therapy, January 2017, before receiving a diagnosis. I live in Hollywood, Florida. I contacted CARD and I have an appointment later this month. My insurance does not cover ABA, so as of now, my son is still receiving the same speech, OT, and behavioral therapy. I have seen improvements, but his communication, receptive and expressive, is still quite delayed, although better. I am worried that he won't improve without ABA. What can I do to prepare for my appointment with CARD later this month? Do they offer assistance with services? And thank you for your response. And she said, oh, I forgot to mention the behavior therapy he is receiving is only 1 hour a day, 3 days a week. Obviously not enough. These are what she wrote. I plan on signing up for skills and doing the ABA myself if that's what it takes.
Good for you. That's always wonderful to hear, and kudos to you for that. A couple of things. I want to just make sure, first of all, because you're in Florida, I want to make sure that you're dealing with the right card. There's a card in Florida, which is part of the University of Florida system. We've actually tried very hard to get them not to use our name, but because they're part of the university system, universities don't have to adhere to the same laws as it pertains to copyright. So we can't do anything about their name. There is a card there that doesn't provide services, that provides information, and I don't want to comment on them being good or bad, but they're not us.
Right.
So if you want to make sure that you're dealing with us, please go on the website, make sure that it is our card. We have, you'll see my face all over our website, but also our intake procedure is online. It involves a very, very long assessment, which is the skills index. So if you are going to be seeing someone for CARD, you will do skills, the assessment for skills. If you're not automatically doing skills, it's not us. Okay. So please make sure of that, first of all. Secondly, we are accepting Medicaid in Florida, and we will be providing services to a lot of families there just through Medicaid. So, I completely understand that you are gung-ho about doing it yourself, and I encourage you, and I say, good for you. And what you should do right now is go on the Institute for Behavioral Training, IBT.org, ibehavioraltraining.org, right?
Yes.
ibehavioraltraining.org, and start teaching yourself, use their modules and start learning the techniques of ABA. That'll always be good. Whether or not you have therapists doing this for you, it's still going to be very good for you to learn these procedures. And then the other thing you can do is absolutely get on skills. I mean, talk to the people who are doing your intake, and usually you should be going through our admissions department anyway, but they might be going through expansion department, I don't know, but whoever is doing your intake, ask them for the skills assessment, because that's a big part of starting at CARD, is doing the assessment. And right now we allow parents, because we're doing so many intakes, in April, did you hear that we did 216 intakes?
Amazing.
Which is unbelievable, yeah. But what we do is we allow you to do what's called the short index. So it's a shorter version of skills. And then later you will be asked to complete the full assessment, which is long. But your child is 2, so it's not going to be that long for you. And good job, by the way, your child is 2. You're getting in on like very, very early, and that's fantastic. And I want to support you, because parents who start these interventions when their children are very young tend to have a much easier time, because behaviors haven't been ingrained, challenging behaviors. So let us know what we can do to help. But what you can do is just to learn more online. Get your skills assessment done, learn more on IBT, and that's really it. And if you can't get therapists, then what I suggest is you become a member of skills, and then you hire students in the environment, whoever they are, high school students who are dedicated, and each of them can put in 5 hours a week, pay them minimum wage, and get them to learn from IBT and skills. IBT has all of the techniques, and skills, of course, will give you all the content. You absolutely can run a program yourself if you want to, but you will need help, because for a 2-year-old, by the time your 2-year-old becomes 3, you're looking at 30, 40 hours of therapy a week, and that's just not possible for one person. That's just not possible. It's way too much.
But I love, what I see in this parent, that she's going to do, he or she, I shouldn't assume she, is going to do whatever it takes. And I think that that's one of the greatest precursors to success, is that
Absolutely.
when the parent gets that mindset on, it doesn't matter what it is, we're going to do it. That's
Absolutely.
what works.
You know, if you want to on IBT, you can go ahead and train and get your BCAT certification. You can
Absolutely.
become a board certified autism technician yourself and run the program when you hire other people.
And you can do it all online in your free time. You don't have to go to college and buy books and be gone during the
Not
day
at
and
all.
find a babysitter. You can do it online. It's amazing training that will help you throughout. That's a great idea. ibehavioraltraining.com. And it's not very expensive either.
Not at all.
I think it's less than $400 to go through all the classes, and you can buy them class by class. So if you can't afford to do the whole thing at one time, you can take a class and pay for that one. Sometimes it's $7.
Yeah.
So I always tell people to start with the compliance one, because getting compliance from your child, proper compliance, it's like angels singing. Okay, another question here. Hey, Shannon and Dr. Doreen, why do kids with autism engage in destructive behaviors? I'm having trouble finding the function of the behavior with my 5-year-old daughter and 3-year-old son. We will clean their rooms, and within an hour or so, they have pulled every single thing out. Not playing with it, just love to pull things out all over their playrooms. I make them help clean it up and monitor them as much as possible while they play, but it never gets any better. Any input is appreciated. I don't mean to laugh at all, but you know, our kids want to do that sometimes. They just want to pull everything out.
But I don't think that it is, I can't really classify that as destructive behavior, because destructive behavior tends to be behavior where we actually take an object and destroy it. So kind of making their rooms messy, I think has, you know, it has lots of other reasons. Perhaps the child is just, you know, jumping from one activity to another, and therefore after each activity they don't put stuff away. It's just a habit of like, you know, I want to do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and so on and so forth. So my recommendation is, instead of allowing it to happen and then cleaning the whole thing up with them, you start to focus on teaching the children anything you play with has to be put back. And that is a very different thing, which requires you to sit there, and if they engage with something, you stop them from going and getting one other item before this one has been put back. So if you can focus on that, then I think the kids will both, and then highly reinforce that, of course. So you'll work with each child maybe alone. It might be too difficult to manage both of them, or you might turn it into a fun game with both of them, and whoever can get the item that they play with and then put it back, you give them a reward. Like I would start with actually food reward. You know, I'd have like little candies, like M&Ms or something, and I'd just sit there, and when someone plays with something, I'd say, oh, are you done? Go ahead and put it back. And I'd model and prompt and then give them a candy, and they'd soon learn that, oh, every time I put something back, I'm going to get an M&M. And then the next time what you do is you give them an M&M for 2 toys that they put back, and so on. But essentially, and you fade yourself out. But trust me, that's very powerful. When kids learn that the last thing they do in playing with something is putting it back, then you never have anything to clean up.
There you go. Okay, another question that came in on the live feature. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. Our young teen has always been more comfortable socializing with adults. Some educators have told us that he will become an adult soon and the socialization will come. By the time he's an adult, the current adults are in a different age group and his current peers will be adults. Will he be able to handle the adults when he's an adult? And thank you for your amazing show.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and sometimes we have a lot of kids who are like this, Shannon, where they have a more sophisticated lingo or style of communication. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons with this. Sometimes you have children who get along better with adults because adults are more accepting of and can monitor things better. Sometimes you have teens who are just more interested in adults because those are their interests. And you know, we have children who have in the past had a diagnosis of Asperger's, let's say, who are incredibly advanced in certain areas, and they just don't have the tolerance or interest in mingling with younger children or children of their own age, because a child of, let's say, their own age might be interested in, I don't know, fashion, and this child, same age, is more interested in, physics.
Right.
So there is, it is not that later on adults will have moved on to something else. It is very common that we have precocious teens who later continue to do very well with adults, and it's totally fine. The only thing I find is that sometimes the teens become a little bit lonely, and then you kind of have to try to find for them other teens who are similar. And that becomes easier and easier these days. Like a lot of kids who are into gaming tend to be more advanced in their thinking, or into robotics. Like when you have a lot of schools now have robotics club, and those are kids that usually get along more with adults than with young kids. The more verbal a child is, they tend to get along with adults better than kids who are very motor driven or physical. So I think I wouldn't worry about it, but what I would try to do is find different kids, other kids in similar age groups who have similar interests. They don't even have to be similar age groups, really. Focus on the interests that your child has. What are the things that your child is interested in? Get them in a group where they can socialize regardless of the age of the other members in that group.
It's a great thing.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack.
Jack Riley.
He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
Exciting.
I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
I think Suzanne has her camera to take a picture of me.
That's true. What are you doing today?
I'm going to the park.
And what are we going to do at the park?
Say hi to 5 kids.
Cool.
Let's do it, Jack. I think there are a lot of kids out here. Hi.
Jessica, Jack Riley, and Dad are at the park again to give Jack Riley an opportunity to socialize with peers. Here, unlike at school, Jessica can observe to see how he's doing and prompt him when necessary. Their goal today is to say hi to 6 kids and have them get used to using several different phrases to initiate conversation. As they go on more outings, Jessica will prompt him less and the conversations will become more natural.
You want to come play with me, guys? What's your feeling? I'm building a tower. I found a rock.
I used to be terrified to come to a park.
How old is he now?
He's 4
He's 4.
since December.
Yeah, we had issues and doubts with him at some point.
Yeah. It's the best thing that happened for us, though, because then you go get the services that you need as opposed to just waiting for him to get. So he got, he's had 2 years of fantastic help.
And now he's talking and
Talking and conversations. Now he won't shut up. Okay, go to sleep. Daddy, but wait. Right, thanks very much. My name's Mike.
my name's Ronnie.
Ronnie, nice to meet you. Today was a great day at the park. For me too, I met some nice people. I don't think anyone there, aside from the camera, thought there was anything different about my son.
No, what made today so good?
Just he was playing with other kids. He was engaging. I didn't think about the A word, autism, the whole time. I was just thinking, there's my kid playing with other kids. That's a lie. I always think about it, I guess, but I don't know. He was calm. He was having fun. I've seen the last 2 days. I've seen joy on his face for extended periods of time. I don't know. He's making progress, man.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism. I'm Nancy Alspaugh Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod, and I just want to point out that we did not talk about colors.
We didn't do color coordinated. This is not something
this was
we discussed.
Vulcan mind meld that we have sometimes.
Yes, we do that sometimes.
I even now have purchased some articles of clothing that are animal print because you have so many things that are and that like I'm drawn to them now, and then I wear them and it just happens to be on the day that you have animal print.
So weird.
So it's and sometimes we have that Vulcan mind meld with Dr. Grant Boucher too, and it's like, ooh, we were all thinking along the same lines.
Dressed the same.
So, and I think a lot of us are in that holiday sort of mode.
Yeah, kind of in the pre-holiday.
Yeah, so I find myself wearing a lot of blue and silver, or a lot of red and green, or red and black.
I don't have much red. This is one of the few red tops I have.
Over the years here at Autism Live, I've bought more red things because, there's Valentine's Day and there's, Christmas and so on and so forth. So I have more red and since I, went platinum, as it were, I find myself wearing more red because it's a fun, it's a fun color. Whereas I don't think red, I have a very red, ruddy face. And I don't think red before, when I had dark hair, red was not the color for me. No.
Okay.
Not
well, I think you're imagining that, but whatever.
Nice of you to say that. Hey, we've got a big show for you.
Yeah, we've got toys to talk about first.
Yeah, because
so we'll do that.
It's Festival of the Toys, and you guys know if you watch the show that over the last 6 years, can you believe it's been 6 years?
No.
Every year we do something during the holiday season, the Festival of Toys, and each year it's gotten bigger. We review the toys. This year we have a holiday toy guide that we put together. We review toys for months.
Fantastic.
It really is. And you can access it by going to our home website. You go to autism-live.com. There you'll see the blog up in the upper left-hand corner. You click on the blog. It'll show you the blog that talks a little bit about the toys. And in the bottom of the blog is a place to click to get to the toy guide. And you can download it. You can take it to the store with you. We cover 5 different age ranges. So there's babies and toddlers, right? Then it moves on to preschool kids, then school-aged kids, then teens and tweens, and then adults. And these are toys that in those age ranges, there's a wide variety of things that are good for a wide variety of people. So you would look, if you have, there's the short link. Look at how fabulous is Samantha. So you could go directly to the guide right there. So thank you, Samantha. And so within each age range, there is a toy that we call an oldie but a goodie, because sometimes you forget oldie but goodie toys. And the ones that we're going to show you today are both oldie but goodies. And then we have our top new toy of the year in that category. We have our top toy recommended by therapists. We have our top toy recommended by parents. We have our top sensory toy, the top toy of the year in that category from our opinion. And then we have the top board game and the top book.
That's amazing that you put all that together.
Let me tell you, it was an uphill climb. There was a lot of work to do, and I was, I didn't think we were going to get it done, but we did.
That's great.
And I'm passionate about the toys, you guys. So the toy that I've got sitting directly in front of me, this happens to have been the oldie but goodie in the category for preschool kids. So this we're talking 3 years and up, 3 to 5, and for our kids on the autism spectrum. Now, you might have a child that's older who would enjoy playing with this too.
In that range,
so just know that, but it wouldn't
emotionally.
be for kids younger than 3. And in fact, this is rated 3+. This is from Batat. Although there are a couple of different toy makers for this toy, and it's a take-apart airplane. Now, when Jem was little, he had one of these, and he had the truck as well. And here's what I love about some of our kids are very interested in mechanical things and engineering and that kind of thing. Jem, I don't know why it was this way, but Jem, if there was a flashlight within 3 miles of him, he would find it and have it taken apart in under 3 minutes.
Wyatt was not like that, and Wyatt rarely played with toys like this.
Okay. Well, and it might have been fun to have put this in his hands and teach him how to do it to see, if it was a thing.
Right.
Like we had to teach Jem how to play with Legos, but before he had Legos, he had one of these.
Right.
And my mom got this and I thought, oh, what is this? But it's a toy, and you can put it together screws and play with it like a toy, right? But then you have the drill, and it has these different drill bits on it that they can put on the drill. And I'm not going to turn the drill on because it's really loud in the studio.
So what does the drill bit do?
You can put it one way or the other, and you put it in, and it tightens.
Okay.
Or it releases the screw, so you can take this entire thing apart. I just put it together while you were watching. I don't even know if you noticed.
No, I didn't.
But so I put the whole thing together while I was talking to
Wow.
Nancy. So each screw, each bolt comes out, and the pieces all come off, and they can take it all apart. And for some of our kids, that is deeply, deeply satisfying to them. And there are different ways you can put it together, but there's only one way that it goes together with all the pieces. And keep in mind that each one of these little, and of course I'm using it without the drill, because again, the drill is loud. Look at all these pieces come off, right?
Right.
And even the little propeller goes on and
So
comes
kids
off.
that really like putting things together and taking things
them
apart.
And it makes this lovely, it's a loud noise but in the studio, but it's not loud in a house. But it, and you can do reverse. So you do it one way and it tightens it, and the other way and it takes it apart. And each one of these drill bits can be used with each one of the screws.
Right.
It works for all three of them, so they're not going to get it wrong. But there are some ways, some places in it where a different drill bit is easier than one of the others. So it reinforces when they use that one, but it's not impossible to do the other. Fabulous, fabulous toy, because if you think about it, this is using a lot of different skills. First of all, it's fine motor, finger skills, which are going to help with handwriting. It is logical. It's those engineering building skills that are really good for all of our kids. And then it's a toy that they can play with, and it can be creative, make-believe, symbolic toy.
Right, and they can do stories and fun things after it's put together.
And honestly, can I tell you that if you go on my YouTube channel from way back before there was an Autism Live, there are videos of Jem that he shot with my camera with this airplane because he did a little, he reenacted a part of Indiana Jones. As he called it, Hindiana Jones. It was always Hindiana Jones this and Hindiana Jones that. So he did a whole thing with him with the snake and the plane.
Right.
And he did it with a little Lego figure and made a background and everything, and it's on my YouTube channel. So he played with this for years. We got so much mileage out of this. If you have kids that are at all taking things apart, don't have them take apart your flashlights. Get one of these toys, and it's really fabulous. And it looks like a lot of pieces, but it's really not, and easy to keep. We still have the one. This is not the one, but we still have the one because I can't bear to part with it. Because he had that much fun with it. Highly recommend that. Now you've got a toy in front of you, Nancy, that is...
It's a classic.
It is a classic. It actually won the Oldie But Goodie gift award, because once they get to adults, we're not calling them toys anymore. We're calling them gifts. And it won for adults. The Oldie But Goodie. And
it's pin art.
Yeah, it's a classic pin art. And this is coming to us from Toy Smith, and we wanted to thank Toy Smith for sending these to us. And there are hours of fun that can be had with pin art. Boy, if you don't believe it, put one in a room full of adults, on the spectrum or not on the spectrum, and they will have a good time.
It's hard not to play with it, right?
Is.
When you
and
have it in front of you.
Now, they come in different colors and styles. This is one of the old-fashioned metal ones, but some people prefer, they have the plastic ones. They're not as heavy, and they come in different colors. Like you can get neon green and blue and red and all those things. If you've got somebody who really has a favorite color, you can do that. But I love, there's a noise that comes with it that's, when you stick the pins, when you go back to zero, the pins make a wonderful noise. And then it's fun to watch how logically people play with it. Like I would never think to do what you're doing, sticking on its side and poking through.
Really?
But but did you see what I was doing with it before?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so let me borrow for a second. So my favorite thing to do with these is you take it and I love that noise, right?
Okay.
And then I put my hand here and turn it back over, and it makes the sculpture of my hand.
Yeah.
I've had friends do this on their face. I have a bunch of makeup on and I don't want to do that. But and they feel cold. The little pins feel cold. There's something sensory about that, and the little noises that it makes. And then you can move your hand around and make different gestures with it. I liked, because I did it with my ring.
Right.
My ring showed up even.
Yeah.
Which makes me happy. I don't
That's
know
cool.
why that is, but people love these. You can take and
Yeah.
play with it. People love these. They're not terribly expensive. So when you're looking for something, it's so hard, right? When you've got adults that are on the spectrum. But the truth of the matter is, you guys, you could give this to a teenager.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give it to a little kid. If I was going to do a little kid, I would do the plastic ones.
Right.
But the plastic ones are really fun too. They're just not as heavy. And for some people, that's more appropriate. I also wanted to take a second to say, too, it got cold here the last couple of days. And one of the things that I've slept so good the last couple of days. And I know why. Because we loaded up my side of the bed with a bunch of blankets. I get really cold when I lay down. And the thing that I've discovered in the last 2 years is that I need a weighted blanket.
You do?
I need a weighted blanket. Now, I promised
Wyatt
your
has
son.
one.
He does have
He
one?
has one now,
Okay,
yes.
because I promised him one and I still haven't gotten it for
He's
him.
got a weighted blanket and he sleeps with it every night.
And does he love it?
He loves it.
Well, a weighted blanket is one of the things that we also listed as a top gift in the adult division.
Yeah.
There is something about it for me, and I'm somebody who has sensory issues. Do you have sensory issues?
Yes, I do.
Do you? And have you tried it? Have you sat under his
I
blanket?
go in his room sometimes and grab it and go under it.
And there are different weights, you guys. We, in the toy guide, you'll see that we recommended a very specific weighted blanket seller, but there are many that are out there and they make them customized. Some of them are minky.
If you go to our website, we have a maker of weighted blankets and toys that
Wonderful.
that gives us a discount for grants for Act Today.
Oh, what a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
What a fabulous thing.
Harkla. They're named Harkla.
Harkla. Okay, and we recommended Mosaic in the guide, but they're all wonderful. You just, read the reviews and make sure that
Yeah,
they're
Harkla
reputable.
has the weighted blankets, the swing sets.
Oh, how lovely.
They have all kinds of adaptive toys that can help.
And that's a great gift that somebody will
Yeah.
use. And the nice thing about the weighted blankets is that they're not necessarily like you can get ones that have the Sherpa on the one side and
Right.
the mink on the other side. Not mink, but minky.
faux
They
fur,
call it minky
yeah.
fabric. But they don't have to. Like I'm waiting until it's cold to put the
Right.
heavy blanket on because I'm
Right.
putting quilts on. But with a weighted blanket, you don't have to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
it is pressure. And there is something about it that's so comforting. I didn't realize how much I'd missed that until it got cold the last couple
Yeah.
of nights. And man, I just have slept like a dead woman.
Really good.
Oh, and I needed it really badly. So anyway, these are just some of the gifts, and we're going to be featuring more every single day that we're live until the bitter end.
Okay.
Of the month, from here to the end of 2017. But check out the guide to see if there's something
Definitely
there
check
that
out the
sings
guide.
to you guys for somebody in your life, whether it's a kid or adult. We've
You
got
went to a lot of work to do this, Shannon.
and can I say we love the toys that we picked, and I think we're going to make this a yearly thing with the
It's
toy guide
great.
because it's really wonderful.
There's toys. We're surrounded by toys in here.
I told them earlier this morning, if you could see, there's toys all over the floor in
Right.
here. So, but anyway, these are two that are great for different ends of the age
Right.
range, right? But really fabulous. We're going to take a break and then we're going to come back and do In the News. So stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. Last week, we talked about step number 1, accept and embrace this challenge. Now we're moving on to step number 2, educate yourself. After my son Wyatt was diagnosed, I put up a sign over my home office that said Autism Central. I went to school in my home office every night after my husband and Wyatt had gone to bed because I was determined to learn everything there was about autism. That's because knowledge is power. Visit all the autism websites you can, read all the books you can, learn about all the organizations that are out there that offer free guides to help you. Some of them even offer mentors to help guide you. Find out about local support services. Find out about what educational services your child is entitled to. Get to every autism conference and seminar you can. I'll never forget the first autism conference that I went to. The first speaker was a beautiful, brilliant woman named Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet. She spoke about a therapy called Applied Behavioral Analysis, or ABA. She told about how it could improve the life of children with autism, and in some cases, recover them. Now, despite the fact that Wyatt had been diagnosed for over a year, nobody had told me about this therapy. I remember calling my husband on the cell phone and saying, honey, I met the woman who is going to help improve Wyatt's life. And I'm happy to say that 8 years later, that's true. Are you feeling a little overwhelmed by all the information that's out there? Well, you're not alone. But try different approaches for your child. Trust your gut. Just 40 short years ago, mothers were told if their child had autism that they would have to be institutionalized, and in some cases, they were actually blamed for their child's autism for failing to bond with the child. That was called refrigerator mother syndrome. Well, thank goodness times have changed. So until next time, learn everything you can about autism and keep the faith.
And we're back. I'm gonna have a hard time keeping my hands off this.
I know. I took the other one off the table because.
We're gonna have to
see,
put it away.
That's the hallmark of a great toy.
That you can't stop playing with it.
Yeah, you can't stop playing with it, and that there are all these different things that you want to do with it, and that you keep finding different things to do it. That's why it's an oldie but a goodie.
Okay.
So there you have it. So we got some news stories for you.
do.
Starting with, and I think this goes hand in hand with everything we've been talking about.
Right.
There's a study about a video game that showed that it could improve the balance of kids that were on the autism spectrum.
It rewards participants for holding these ninja poses.
Yeah. And if you think about it, both of our kids have had Wii Fits with the balance board, right?
I need to get a new balance board for mine because I don't have the balance board.
And I gotta say, one of the reasons why my son we had a gaming system in our house, but we went and got a Wii because of the Wii balancing board. And because I had read a study about mirror neurons.
Right.
That there are these neurons in everybody's brain that most people that are neurotypical, which I don't know what that means anymore, but if you're neurotypical and they have you hooked up to electrodes and you're watching, say, the Olympics.
Right.
And you're watching somebody do that, the ski jump thing.
Right.
And you've never ski jumped in your life, doesn't matter. You're sitting and watching the ski jump, and when they take off, there's a part of your brain where the mirror neurons that would have lit up if you were actually doing it, light up.
Okay.
So, and that's why they call them the mirror neurons, because it mirrors what you're doing. Well, oddly enough, kids that are on the autism spectrum, those mirror neurons don't light up when they're watching something, right? But they have discovered over and over and over again with video games that if there's an avatar, that if the kid is actually doing it. And the avatar is mirroring it, that it lights up the mirror neurons.
Okay.
How much do we love that?
So Wyatt plays Wii constantly. So
it's good for him.
Okay, good.
It's good for him, especially when it's a physical thing when he's doing what his avatar is doing.
Right, he is doing that.
And on top of that, if you want to pile another study on, if it's something where he's having to cross the midline, like to do table tennis or something, that's good cognitively too.
Okay.
Now, this video game study, they created a video game that was ninja poses, but for some of them, they could work up to holding a pose on one foot for 30 minutes.
It's amazing.
That's a really long period of time. And what they found was across the board, the kids had an improvement in their balance. And we're saying this is something that, this is a tool that we can be using.
Right.
One of the things that I thought was really significant, though, was that they said that kids who have a lot of repetition that they perseverate on, that it wasn't as effective with them.
Right.
But I think, on the one hand, that might be then don't bother to do that. Whereas I looked at that and thought maybe they just need more.
Right.
Maybe part of the thing is that it takes longer for their mirror neurons to.
Maybe.
And the fact that they loved it.
Yeah. If they had ritualistic behaviors like the need to follow a set routine around meal times or bedtimes, did not benefit as much.
Right. But I would like to see that study drawn out longer to see if it just took more opportunities to follow.
Right.
I have to tell you, one of the things that we put in the toy guide, which I know I'm going to get some flack about for adults, we put the Oculus Rift in the toy guide as the top new toy.
Okay.
Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a virtual reality game that is put out by Facebook.
Right.
And my son has been talking to me about this and another virtual reality thing for 2 years.
Okay.
About how it's coming and they're demoing it. And I took him to have it demoed a year ago. I took my husband. We went to the Ronald Reagan Museum when they had their interactive.
Right.
And they had one there. You had to pay for it. I watched my husband play it. And I didn't do it. I said, it's going to make me sick. It's going to make me car sick, whatever. But my husband said that was really cool. And he had to do a thing. He was in a simulator where he had to be a cook. A line cook.
Okay.
And it would tell him fry an egg. So he'd start frying the egg over here.
And where do you see this happening?
Well, he has a pair of goggles on and he's in the world.
In the world.
He's seeing it all. We are standing there watching him in this room, empty room, doing it. It looks weird.
Yeah.
But we can look over at the monitor and see what he's seeing, right?
Okay.
But he was, cooking and whatever, and he left something to burn, and it burned. And he was like, oh no. I videotaped the whole thing. He looks like a crazy person because he's got goggles on, but you can tell he's like, he's picking things up, and he had to have a mitt to pick it up. And I said, it'll make me car sick. Well, this summer, while Jem and I were out on the road, I tried both of the VR things and became a believer.
Did you get them? Did you purchase them?
Well, we did buy, Jem had money that he had to spend that he'd been saving for lots of different things. So he bought the Oculus Rift for himself, but he didn't have a computer to play it on.
Where do you get the Oculus Rift?
You can buy it at most, like he bought it on Amazon, but you can buy it at Best Buy. I think they sell it at Walmart, all these places. And it's not cheap.
Right.
It's like $375. And then you have to have a really mega computer to do it on. So he's had it and not been able to play it because he didn't have a computer. He might be getting a computer. But I have to tell everybody that I put it specifically in the guide because I think it's the future.
Okay.
I think it's a way of...
It's virtual reality.
It's a way of teaching our kids. The one that changed it all for me, I was in this simulator, and to me, I was in that world, and I was not even a little car sick, and I get car sick just sitting here, okay? I get car sick on a stationary bicycle. I can't ride a merry-go-round. I have to take pills to ride the tram at Disneyland, right? To go to the rides. So I didn't get car sick at all. And there was a robot who was speaking to me non-verbally, and he was pointing to things. And so I would have to pick up this thing, and then he would go over and he would point. And then I would stick it into the thing, and this thing would happen. And then he would point, and I would have to figure out what he wanted next.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be big for our kids. It's going to be big for our kids. And there's a lot of nonsensical games that they have, but I'm telling you guys, this is the future. So anyway, video games. I know people will tell you, don't let your kids just play video games. And I agree with that. And Temple says that all the time. They're playing video games too long. But if you pick and choose which video games, and I say getting the Wii Fit is a good thing.
We got to get the board.
There you go. That's going to be a fabulous thing. Okay, our next story here comes to us from Australia, and this is a very disappointing thing. There is a gentleman named Don Burke who is the host of Burke's Backyard, and his name is Don Burke, but I hate saying that, and I'm not going to say it too many more times because I don't want him to get any more attention than is necessary. He has been accused of sexual misconduct, and his response on Monday night when he was being interviewed by A Current Affair, his response was to say that the reason why he perpetrated these heinous acts was that he had Asperger's.
He said he's an Asperger's person who has difficulty looking people in the eye and reading body language.
And he then, upon being asked to clarify, admitted that he does not have an official diagnosis, that he figured it out for himself, and that he is self-diagnosed, and that this is why he harassed, because when he was harassing, he didn't notice that the other person was uncomfortable because he's incapable of noticing it. Well, the autism community has spoken swiftly and loudly, and I want to add my voice to it to say, no, foul. Foul in so many different ways of what that word means, foul. This is not something that you can dismiss with saying that you have Asperger's. And, if you feel that you have Asperger's, that is one thing. And if you feel that you don't want to go get a diagnosis, well, that is your business. But if you are perpetrating a crime, you do not get to wave that flag and go, oh, that's why. First of all, that is not a symptom of Asperger's. Second of all, you have done damage to the autism community by associating yourself with them. And third, it just incenses me because, in fact, if you look at statistics, people who are on the autism spectrum are far and away more likely to be the victims of this kind of behavior, not the perpetrators.
Right.
So, Don, bye-bye. And we don't want to hear from you, and don't bother associating yourself with our tribe. You are not one of our tribe.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Trying to deflect the criticism by using that excuse is no excuse.
Unbelievably shady. Okay, now in Slate magazine, they had a wonderful article that just came out today titled, "Should We Screen All 2-Year-Olds for Autism?" Did I just hear the entire world go, yes? Yes, we absolutely should, and all the different reasons why.
Right.
It's
It
in Slate
featured a
magazine.
story
right now.
about a mom who kept at trying to get a diagnosis even after the pediatrician said there was nothing wrong, which is what happened in my case.
And when we see what happens in these cases, there are a whole lot of people who slip through the cracks. Now, a lot of times it's people that are in underserved populations.
Yes, and that's what a lot of this article is about.
Yes.
That the Hispanic community receives a later diagnosis.
And
and
so does the African-American community.
They both just receive later diagnoses because they just, on average, the Black and Latino were diagnosed later than their peers with a delay of 1.4 and 2.45 years, respectively.
And
so that's quite a bit of time.
That's quite a bit of
2.5
time.
years is quite a bit of time.
It's quite a bit of time, but I think if they delved in further, they would see that there's also a lag for children who are Asian.
Yes.
And for children who are Armenian and, Middle Eastern descent.
Right.
Because there are stigmas in it that, the parents aren't going to show up and ask questions like, why doesn't my child do this?
And then sometimes there's a language barrier in Hispanic population.
So, I know that earlier this year, that the board that decides, prophylactic measures said it's not necessary,
Right.
but I think we all need to write them a letter and go, guess again.
It is necessary.
It is absolutely necessary. It should be mandatory for
In 2007,
all
the
2-year-olds.
American Academy of Pediatrics recommended that doctors screen all toddlers for autism at their 18 to 24 month
And here we are 10
visit.
years later and still having to argue it. Who can we throw up on?
I know it.
Because that's what I feel like doing, is throwing up on somebody. Okay. Then our last story, I loved this in The Guardian. A lovely article about 10 ways to help a parent of a child with autism.
And this was written by a special needs mom with 2 kids, one a daughter with Kabuki syndrome, and then a son that has autism, and another child that is, I guess, quote, neurotypical.
And I read through this, and we want to encourage you guys, go to The Guardian and look this up. But we're gonna go through it fairly quickly. And I thought, boy, when early on, this was something that really would have helped me. I wished I'd had this to send out in a Christmas card to friends and family to say, here's what we're going through, and here's what we, pick 2 on this list.
Just 2, yeah.
2 on this list that,
Because not all of them are you going to be able to do.
Right. So the first one is to encourage a friend to seek out whatever support is offered through the school or through educational services. And it feels like a duh, but sometimes having a friend say, I know that there's services
You need
that are
to go
available.
talk to so-and-so about
Go talk
that.
to them. And it's okay to take, in the beginning, I thought, we don't want to have to take services from somebody.
Right.
That feels like, like we couldn't take care of ourselves. Well, guess what? You can't in the autism community. Nobody can do this by themselves. And when you have somebody else that you respect and admire go, you're not expected to do this by yourself. You go, oh, okay. Right?
Right, that's true.
Okay, you want to take the next one?
Number 2, support your friend to advocate for her child. Medical professionals and school staff often focus on what the child can't do. As a mother, I need to feel positive about my children. So having a friend that knows my child comes along to a difficult meeting to support me is invaluable. So a friend that supports you in advocating for your child.
And that you get to advocate for your child, and that it's okay to advocate for your child. I think it's wonderful. Number 3 is to encourage them to get involved with a local parent support group. And I say either local or I think it's important to have a local support group. For me, it worked better for me I went to one meeting and met other parents. That wasn't good for me. But to have one online, and I did that through Taka. And there are all kinds of on Cafe Mom and on Yahoo.com. There are all kinds of local support groups, but also to have one that's a little bit more global, because in my local one, I wasn't finding somebody who had a kid like mine.
Right.
When I went to a global one, I found people who had a kid like mine. In my local one, I found out where to go to get his hair cut, right? So definitely encourage them to do that.
Number 4, strangers' curiosity is often unwelcome. An inquisitive stare or ill-judged remark can be the last straw. Having you by her side to fend off unwanted interest or other calm explanations will make all the difference.
I think about when we went to, which amusement park was it? Knott's Berry Farm.
Knott's Berry Farm.
And there was a moment when there were people in line to see Snoopy.
Yeah.
And we walked up, and Wyatt was so excited that he saw Snoopy that he just went right up and started talking to Snoopy.
Right.
And there were a group of women who were just, and you were having a moment like loving the fact that Wyatt was interacting, and there were a group of women who were about to lynch both of you.
Yeah.
And I went over and I was just like, just give it a minute. And then they realized that, they could wait a moment.
Right.
And that it was perfectly fine.
Right.
And I think it's that kind of a thing. Just having, and I know you would have done the same thing for me.
Right.
Having somebody's back when something's going on.
Yeah,
so
her child's special needs, and she's dealing with it as best she can.
Right. And don't lose your mind. You're going to get back to Snoopy in 35
your kid will
seconds.
get Snoopy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But they were like, you cut the line.
I know.
Whatever.
Broken sleep is often a huge issue, so you can.
A good one?
If you know her child well enough, offer to stay in the house occasionally and be the one to get up. Well, that requires a real friend.
It really does. But I think, I had a friend who did this for me, who said when I got to the point where I was so sleep deprived, said, I'm going to come over and spend the night. And I know I've spent the night once at your house.
You've spent the night at my house. You've done it for me, but I'm saying it takes a real friend.
Well, but there are friends that are out there.
Like
Don't be afraid to, and to send this out in a Christmas card. Maybe somebody else would do it.
Maybe.
Okay. And then, from the coming and spending the night every once in a while, let's move on to number 6, which is occasional respite. That every once in a while giving a break. That I've had friends. I remember so distinctly, there was one of my friends who said, I said, I just need 2 hours. I need 2 hours to myself. And she said, I'm coming up to your house. You can do whatever you want. And I went scrapbooking. And we laugh about that now because she called another friend and said, if I'm ever in a position where I need 2 hours off and I say that I want to go scrapbooking, please shoot me. Right? And now she scrapbooks.
That was relaxing for you to go scrapbooking?
Yeah, it was all I needed more than anything else in the world. I needed to craft.
Okay.
Because I couldn't have done that for the longest time. And I needed to do something that felt normal.
Okay.
Now, for other people, that would be go get a manicure or something. But for me, I needed to craft and commemorate what we were going through.
Okay.
I couldn't write about it at that point.
Right.
Later on I wrote, but I needed to scrapbook, and I have those scrapbooks.
You do?
I do. I should bring them in sometime for you to see. They're kind of amazing. But anyway.
And also to encourage them to get respite care. There are services that are available.
Yes. Amen to that, right? And then, number 7 is all about stimming and how it can be perceived and kind of being a buffer. So that if the child is stimming and behaving in a certain way, that you don't look at it and think that it's weird, and that you're a buffer for other people.
I have issues with this. It's often embarrassing for parents, and anywhere there's a fountain or water, he'll go over and he'll splash in it.
Yeah.
And that can be embarrassing for me.
And to have a friend there who kind of normalizes it and say, you're okay, he's okay.
Right.
And tell those people to step back and get over themselves as if you've never seen somebody flap or splash.
Right.
Oh, people are so intolerant. Okay, number 8, be on hand to help out at family functions.
Yes.
And, so that if it's Thanksgiving, that the person is not swimming upstream
That
by
they've got things to do.
themselves.
That maybe there's a goodie bag with
Yes.
distractions, spinners, balloons, stretchy toys.
Or just take a moment and distract the kid with whatever.
Exactly.
Talk to the kid. Give them that moment. Oh, I love number 9, because honestly, this is the thing that a lot of times you ask an autism parent, and I relate to these because, you've been going through this too.
Yes, I have.
With grief.
Right.
And so you ask somebody, come on, you want to do this? And there's a time when they say no. And then you keep asking, and there comes a point when you stop asking, right?
That's right.
But you can't. You have to keep
keep at it, because let me vouch for this one. Because I've said no to a lot of friends about things, because I say I can't leave Wyatt alone.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready yet to go out to things. It seems like sometimes those invitations then start to dry up, and you don't want them to.
And it can't be. So you got to be the good friend and keep asking and inviting. And then the last one, which I think is super important, is discourage your friend from trying to plan too far ahead. This can go both ways. I have a friend who says, don't try to figure out where you're going to hang the mink coat.
Right.
Right? You don't know if that's happening. You don't know what's happening. So let's just be sufficient onto the day, right?
Yes.
Let's be in this moment. What's happening right now? And let's take care of what needs to happen right now and be in this moment. And I know, especially when the kids get older, you got to do a little bit of planning ahead, but you don't really know what's going to come.
No, you
so
don't.
you be in this moment and do what you got to do right now, and not get
being in the future, too much in the future, too much in the past gives us anxiety.
Well, and let's think about it too, that, joy only happens in this moment.
Right.
And that when you get thinking about the future, sometimes if you have a child who has special needs, you can start catastrophizing.
Yeah.
And it stacks and it goes, well, this is going to happen, and
and
then
you
I'm
don't
going to
know.
die.
Right.
And what's going to happen? And we can paralyze ourselves.
Yes, we can.
And we need to be careful not to do that. And to be a good friend, you need to be
remind the
watching and
person,
going, don't do that.
Right.
All
Deal
right.
with it one day at a time. Have an eye to the future, but deal with it one day at a time and be present. Right.
I think it's a great, great article. If you want to, it's in The Guardian right now. Print it out and put it in your Christmas card and send it out to your friends and say, hey, pick one of these. Pick 2 of these.
Exactly.
Now, before we go to break, you've got an event that's coming up.
We have
Why
an
don't
event
talk about
coming
that?
up called Boots on the Beach. It's at the Newport Dunes, which is a waterfront resort and marina, which is down in Newport Beach. Sometimes you might have seen
the poster is beautiful.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful? It's got the Stephen Wesley Band, and it's got line dance lessons. And
this is New Year's Eve.
This is New Year's Eve, and it's a family-friendly event, okay? You can find out more by going on our website, but it's featuring a DJ and host from Go Country Radio. And it sounds like a fun time.
It does sound like a fun time. I have to say that here in Los Angeles, we don't really have, there are a lot of other cities in the United States that have a first evening, which is a family fun, not centered on drinking, all throughout the city. I mean, I've been in small cities that have had this. I don't know why we don't have that in Los Angeles, but this reminds me of a first
this is
evening.
family friendly. Boots on the beach. You can go to act-today.org to find out more about it.
And it benefits
it benefits Act Today. Part of the proceeds do, not the whole thing, but we
for
get
autism
a portion,
care and treatment.
We get
today.
a portion of the proceeds. You can go and learn a little line dancing. The doors open at 6:30.
Okay,
so that's good to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can get there early.
Are you a big New Year's Eve?
No, I am not.
I like to stay home.
I do too.
I like to stay home, and because I'm an ex-New Yorker, I like to watch the ball drop in New York.
I like to do it on the East Coast feed.
Yeah. And we celebrate that so that at 9 o'clock, a lot of times my husband has to be at work at 7 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day. So we celebrate that, and sometimes he goes to bed. So that's how I like to do New Year's Eve, in my fuzzy jammies.
Yeah, me too. I went to a party last year that was all couples, and it was hard for me. It was my first New Year's without my husband. And went to a party, and of course it was all couples. And it just felt, and everybody, and I also wasn't drinking alcohol, and everybody there was imbibing way too much. So I felt like a stranger in a strange world the whole night. Couldn't wait to get home.
Wow.
So this
but I'm
year,
glad you went.
Well,
Look at
I
you,
forced
warrior
myself
woman.
to go out.
That's important.
Right.
We need to keep forcing you to go out. All right. Having said that, we're going to take a break, and then we think that our guest, Milena Ramasa, is going to
She
be
should
here
be
to
here.
talk with us about Convade and R82. They've got a new car seat that's out that's called the Wallaroo. I love that name.
Yeah, it's a great name. Very Aussie.
Very Aussie. And so she's going to talk about why this particular car seat is so fabulous and so safe. You know, we love Convade. They make the
We do
best
love
special
Convade.
needs car
They
seats.
do.
And you saw us a couple of months ago talk about their, it's not a car seat, it's a portable seat.
Portable seat.
That's called the Scallop. And that has
is so much
something to
fun.
do with the Wallaroo. So,
Okay.
Samantha, why don't we go ahead and show them the video of, which one do you want to do? Do you want to do the Scallop or the Wallaroo? Let's do the Wallaroo.
Okay.
Let's rip the cord
Let's
on
look at
that.
that.
Take a look, the Wallaroo. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and this is my husband.
Hello.
I was going to let you say your name.
Oh, I'm Jim Miller.
And we are here at the Miracle Mile Toy Store. This is an amazing toy store right in the center of Los Angeles, and we're going to take a little tour around and look at all the fabulous toys. This toy store is an Astra toy store, and one of the things that you want to look for is that Astra label. That tells you that these are amazing toys, one-of-a-kind toys. You know how when you have that friend who's got the really fabulous toys and you wonder where did they get them? Chances are it was from an Astra toy store. And we're going to show you some cool toys, but in particular some of our award winners from this year's Toy Guide are in the store. So you ready? So we're here at some of the cool toys. You can see I've already lost my husband. Whispering to the puppy. But just some of the award-winning toys this year. I want to start with one of my faves. We had this last year, and it was sort of like an honorable mention last year, and then we played with this so much this year that it had to be one of our top toys. This is Happy Salmon. And it's a card game, but it's for all different kinds of ages and ability, and there's even a portion of the game that you play non-verbally. So awesome, awesome Happy Salmon. You'll find yourself going, Happy Salmon, Happy Salmon. With the, there we go. Happy Salmon. You'll understand when you play this. It's mayhem in your house. Also, these are all the Lux blocks that they have left in the toy right now. This is one of our top toys of the year. We love Lux blocks. They've got new colors, and this is all that's left in this toy store because they have sold out.
Wow.
So you need to get the Lux blocks. These are amazing. They're snap together toys that you can make all kinds of things. You know, honey, you've seen us making all kinds of helicopters and things with these. And it works on all the major skills that your kid wants to work on that help with handwriting skills of push, pull, turn. Totally fabulous. I've also got a marble run here.
Marble runs are great.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
Do you remember when Jem used to play with
absolutely.
marble? Because one of the things about this is that
When I would let him.
Right? Because we were playing with it. And you can put it together different ways. So there's all different things you can work on, but it has a beginning, a middle, and an end to it. And once you put the marble in and it goes down, it's like, what, 2 minutes? So that when you're working on something with a kid, you can say, okay, get this right, and then we're going to do the marble run. They put it down the marble run, and then you go, okay, let's go back to work so we can have something else to work for later on. Marble runs are great. This one is a fabulous one, but they're all different kinds out there. And the one that actually won the award this year from Autism Live is from Fat Brain Toys, and it's a bamboo.
That's amazing.
Bamboo marble run. Oh, it's so yummy, I can't stand it. All right, what else do we have here? Oh, this is one of our new top toys this year. This is a Hypno Gizmo. We love sensory toys that kids can play with, and it makes all different shapes and noises. You can see there's these fishing lines where the beads roll. Well, the one that won the top toy is a version of this that's for slightly older kids, where they get to design where the beads go.
Oh my gosh.
And where the different strings go. Hypno Gizmo. So for a younger kid, get the one that's already made, and it's got the twirlies on the side. Listen, I came in here and we were talking about how to set up the chute, and I was standing here playing with it, and they had to snap me out of it.
It says mesmerizing on the box, and it really is.
But for older kids, get the one where they make it themselves. It's super duper fabulous. I just want to say too, when you go to a toy store, you'll see that there's all kinds of things to play with and indulge yourself. One of the things that I noticed when I got here, these are a great toy, Geometrics. They snap together with little magnets, but the magnets are encased in a plastic. You can make all kinds of things with them. Addictive. Geomatrix. Okay, let's check out some of the other rooms, okay? Okay, baby, do you know what this is?
What's it called?
It's a teeter popper.
Teeter popper.
Because it's got these amazing poppers on the bottom. Now, this is one of our award winners for the year. And I want to point out, though, that this is a dirty teeter popper. And there's a reason for that, because this is the demo at the store. This is how well loved this is. You can see that this has been played with. That's how you know the sign of a cool toy, because kids actually play with it. So what this does, the kid sits and teeters in it, and the suction cups stop them from getting too far or knocking them over, and then they have to kind of push to get it to unsuck.
Makes a fun noise too.
It does make a fun noise. So it's really cool. It's a really safe toy, and it's great for building those core muscles and for helping a kid to feel that inner core and grab a hold of it. This is a great OT toy. Kids won't know that they're working on therapy. They just think it's fun. It's super cool. Teeter popper, Fat Brain, get one. One of our favorite new toys this year is the My Little House, or as I call it, Mi Casa Pequeña. Absolutely love this toy. If you watch our show, you've seen us talk about this amazing toy that was made by a speech and language pathologist. Kids play with it, big kids play with it, adults play with it. You can't help yourself because it's the best of felt toys. It's a house and it can go together 1,000 different ways. maybe not 1,000, don't quote me, but a bunch of different ways. And it's got all these lovely pieces to the house. It's like having a dollhouse.
36 pieces, yeah.
36 pieces. Each room is color coded so that it can help a child be able to match. It's really incredible. We absolutely love My Little House. If you have somebody who's a language learner, that they're developing language, boy, this is the toy of the year.
Yep.
Hello, Mr. Turtle.
Hello.
I was wondering if you would like to play with the trains and cars.
I love playing trains.
Yay.
Yes.
So we're going to just have a good time here and continue playing, and we want to encourage you to go to the Astra Toy Store near you. And if you're in the Los Angeles area, come to Miracle Mile Toys. It's at miraclemiletoys.com. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Well,
we're back.
That was the video with my husband and I.
Right. Jim is so cute, I swear.
He is so cute. And somebody had said recently on the show, they were like, you know, do you, why do you never have your husband on the show? And I was like, what are you talking about? I've had him on the show many times
Yeah,
before.
he's done a lot of things
And
for you.
he has. And he's, you know, we've done the thing where we've
employed
interviewed
his services too on many
we
different
have,
things.
we have. And, you know, it's funny that several years ago, we were asked, both of us, to have our husbands on the show. And Reed came and did a stellar interview. And then shortly afterward, Jim came and was on the show. And honestly, sometime when you're ready, you should go back and watch that interview with Reed. Yes. And I have sitting on my desk for when you're ready, the Facing Fatherhood.
Right.
Have you ever seen that?
I never saw the whole program.
Well, you know, it'll
get out the tissue boxes.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because Reed talks about you and how his thing that he would say to you is don't ever die.
Right.
You know, because I don't think I can do this without you.
Right.
And here you are having to do it without him. Which sucks.
It sure does.
It just sucks. But in any case.
But such is life.
But
and we
again,
move
that was
forward.
one of the things we were just talking about, is that everybody doesn't draw the same hand.
No.
And
we get dealt different hands, and we have to play the hand that's dealt us.
Yes. And it seems like, you know, in some ways and sometimes it just seems like there is not there. Well, it isn't fair. There are things that happen, but I'm
finding as Wyatt gets older, it's tougher for me because a lot of the things are the things that I wanted a man to be teaching him.
Yes.
And dealing with him on.
Yes.
Learning about shading, learning about, you know, different things that affect him as he's older, changes in his body, changes in the way he feels about things. And I don't have that male figure to help me.
Absolutely. But I would say to you, too, that you have a community of male figures around you. The irony for me is that a lot of things that you're talking about, I have a male figure in Jem's life to teach those, but I'm the one who teaches them anyway.
Really?
Yeah. Not that Jim can't, but that I tend to jump the gun and talk about it anyway. And I think I'm a lot more open about a lot of things where... you know, my husband is fabulous, but he doesn't run into a conversation about squeamish things. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He keeps his cards much closer to his chest. Whereas I'm like, let's talk about poo, you know?
The thing is that time goes by so quick and you don't realize it, and suddenly I look up and then Wyatt's 16.
Yeah. And he's a man.
And I know, and that's freaking me out a little bit.
Well, and I think that's normal.
Yeah.
I'm
no matter
freaked
what the
out.
Circumstance.
Yeah, I do. I'm freaked out about the fact that Jem is getting older, and we're getting older at the same time.
That's right.
You know, and it's all freak outable about.
I know. If you that's something you can't go too far in the future on either. You got to be really present.
And I think that part of it too, if I could say this, Nancy, is that you know, I have you and I can talk to you about that, but I also have Jim to talk about. And what you're really missing is the other half to talk about.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's really...
And that other half to depend upon when I feel like I don't have the answers and don't know how to do it.
Yes, to tag team and go, I'm out, I'm out today. It's all about you.
Yep.
Right? And that's a lucky, lucky thing to have.
It is.
And I count myself really lucky that I have it. We know the vast majority of our autism moms don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
You had it.
I did have it for a long time.
And so you knew what it was to have it. Although Reed was sick for a lot
He
of the
was,
time.
yeah.
And that you were having to shoulder a lot as well. But
Right.
you have the double-edged
But
sort of...
he was still there.
Yep, he
and
was.
Especially for Wyatt.
And he was a good dad.
He was a good
And he
dad.
was a good husband. Much lost. And I imagine that people that are watching that have lost as well, lost people along the way, whether it's because somebody passed away or because
Or
they
divorce.
just said, peace out, I'm out.
Right.
Right? We know a lot of people that
We sure
happened where
do.
people said, I'm not
They
up
couldn't
to
handle
this
it.
challenge.
This is not what I signed up for.
Right. Which I don't, for those of us who stuck around, it's hard to understand.
It really is.
No judgments, but it's hard to understand.
Yeah.
Because for you and for me, that was never an option.
No.
This was our kid. And
Yeah.
so we were going to do whatever. But in any case, we said we were going to come back. We're still, our guest is stuck in traffic and we're going to stay
Right.
long. We can't stop playing with the thing. But I wanted to reiterate for those of you who are in the Los Angeles area this weekend, we are doing our Sensitive Santa event. Speaking of my husband
Yeah,
gets pressed
speaking
into
of your
service.
husband, he's going to be called
We won't.
out.
Yes, he'll be there. I'll
Yeah,
be there.
We won't tell you where he'll be.
I bet you could guess who
Yeah.
he'll be at the Sensitive Santa event.
Yeah.
But
Santa will be there.
Yes, Santa will be there, and Mrs. Claus will be
And
there
will
as
there
well.
be elves there?
There will be elves there.
Okay.
There will be many an elf there, and then there will be lots of kids who are on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
You can register right now. The tickets are free. It is being held at the We Rock the Spectrum in Tarzana.
And what time does it start?
It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, but what you do is you register for an hour. So you could register for the 9 to 10 hour, you could register for the 10 to 11, you could register for the 11 to 12, then we take a half-hour lunch, and then so it's 12:30 to 1:30, 1:30 to 2:30, 2:30 to 3:30, and then we're done at 3:30. Each hour, you want to come and plan on being there for the full hour. What's really cool about this Sensitive Santa event is that nobody waits in line.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of waiting in line as you get in because you need to register for the hour, and then they ferry all the kids from the first hour out, and they open up the gate and they let the new kids in for the hour, and they get to run around and scream and yell and jump and play on the ball
Play
pit
on the machines.
and
the
all the equipment. And they do the zip line into the crash pit.
Right.
And there's just so many things to do, and it's so much fun. And while they're doing that, we kind of have elves that sneak over and find each individual child and very quietly scurry them away to go have their private visit with Santa. And when they go into the Santa room, the lights are a little bit dimmed, but there's, it's a pretty scene, and Santa and Mrs. Claus and some elves are there, and a photographer is there. But what I love about this, again, it's all free. You can stand there and take as many pictures as you want to with your phone. You can videotape the entire thing. Usually we have a photographer there who takes a professional photo for you that you can get from him later on. There's no charge for
Are you doing that this year?
I believe so. I think that's what's happening. But you get to take your own instantaneous pictures, and nobody's going to stand there and say, oh, you only get 2 minutes.
Right.
And the child gets to spend some time talking to Santa. Before there's a picture, there's no rushing anybody. It's all individual. Sometimes the kids can't handle the room, and Santa goes out of the room with them. We had this happen once 2 years ago where Santa had to go in the parking lot with the young man, but we got that picture. And Mom got that picture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's important. So in any case, and then what I think is one of the highlights of the entire event is as if all of that isn't enough, because at that point, the moms and dads are all crying, right? They got the picture. But then the kiddos get a wrapped toy, one of the toys that's featured in our toy guide. So they're good toys, you guys. And they're toys that are especially meant, and we have toys this year for babies too, because in the past, by the way, you can, the kiddo on the spectrum gets to come, and all of their siblings. And in the past, we've kind of struggled with, do we have baby toys? And this year I paid particular attention to that. And we have baby toys this year. So if you got the baby, bring the baby, because there's some good stuff for the baby as well. And we have stuff for adults as well. So all free, and it's all brought to you by Autism Live. We Rock the Spectrum. We have CARD therapists that are there to hang out with the kids. So CARD helps to support it. And of course, Autism Care and Treatment Today is involved in it
Yes.
and very helpful. So we hope that if you're in the Los Angeles, I still have tickets. We've never ever gotten to a Wednesday and still had tickets.
Really?
Well, we opened up more tickets, so I don't know if it's that or people didn't get the memo because it was
Okay.
Thanksgiving weekend, but we still have tickets. So if you want to register right now,
But you have to have tickets.
you have to have tickets. We can't take anybody if you don't have a registration. And if there is an hour that is completely full, there is now a waiting list that you can fill out and put your name on the waiting list. But don't put your name on a list for an hour and your name on a waiting list for another hour, because that prevents somebody else from getting in. We're hoping that we'll be able to accommodate as many people on the waiting list as possible. And if you decide to cancel your tickets or you can't come even day of, please go on. This is all on Eventbrite. Go on Eventbrite and look for Autism Live Sensitive Santa. But if you're going to cancel, please let us know, because that lets somebody else in. And that's important.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's on Saturday, not to be missed. It's really my favorite thing in the whole year. It's where it all comes to fruition for me, and we get to give back. I'm going to cry a little bit, but there was one year in particular, and I've talked about it before on the show, when things were so bad.
Right.
And
things are so bad where, Shannon?
At home, at our home. And financially, things were so bad. I think Jem had just started therapy, so we weren't in the place yet where we were seeing the big bang from the therapy. But there were medicines that he was taking on a regular basis that we thought were helping to improve what was happening. And I sat down, it was like right about this time of year. And it was after Thanksgiving, and I sat down to look at what money there was.
Right.
And I realized that there was not enough money for a Christmas dinner, a toy for our child, and his medicine. I couldn't do all three.
Right.
I just couldn't do it. And I sat there and was just paralyzed with fear. You know, it just felt like I was being scorched.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do. And I called my good friend Therese and I said, I don't know what to do. Like, what do I do? Because in my heart, I was like, well, we just won't get him a toy. And he's 3, so maybe he won't notice. And it just made me feel horrible.
Yes.
Right? And then I thought, well, we don't have to have a big Christmas dinner.
Right.
We can just eat, eggs or something, right? And then I was like, well, and that felt bad too, but that's the one I was arriving at, was we'll just have scrambled eggs for Christmas dinner, because I wasn't going to not do his medicine.
Right.
But it felt like I had failed.
I know that feeling.
Right? Like I had really screwed this all up, because if I was a good and decent, smart
You'd have
person,
it all arranged.
I would have made sure that there was money for a dinner and a toy and medicine, right? And so I called my friend Therese and I said, I don't know what to do. And because I had been about to order the medicine.
Right.
And she said, order the medicine, it'll all be okay. I promise you it'll all be okay. And I said, how can it be? It's never going to be okay ever again, is what I said to her. And she said, I promise you, take care of what you have to take care of and it'll all be okay. And so I did. I ordered the medicine and I put the phone down, and my phone immediately rang. And it was a woman that I've only talked to once before and once since, but she's a friend of a cousin. And we had done a fundraiser years before for Jem, where we took over a restaurant one night and people came and performed, and we did a fundraiser to raise money to do the biomedical stuff.
Treatment.
Yeah, and she had been invited by my cousin and was there at this event. So she called me out of the blue and she said, Shannon, I don't know if you remember me, but this is my name and I'm a friend of your cousin, and every year for Christmas I get him a gift of giving to a charity. And she said, I was just about to write a check for Habitat for Humanity, and I thought, oh, I'll bet it would be so much more meaningful if I paid for some of Jem's medicine.
Wow. So talk about answered prayers, right?
And she said, can I send you a check?
Wow.
And I said to her, I want to grow up to be you, right? And, I am not somebody and you do that. You make it possible for people with autism care and treatment today you make it possible for those miracles to happen. But I decided a long time ago that I wanted to do something where kids got a toy. So at least I know there's one wrapped toy, and if parents don't have another place to go, that they can get a wrapped toy.
And you've done it.
Well, we do what we can, right? I mean, that's what we do. But that's part. It's my favorite day of the year. I gotta get a tissue.
Okay.
But it's my favorite day of the year because we get to
And you
do
made it
that.
happen.
Well,
You've made it happen for years.
we
now.
get a lot of help for doing it, but I thank the toy manufacturers because I think that sometimes the parents go, well, it would be important if we could get the picture with Santa, but
Right.
it's hard to go out.
Yeah, it is.
And you don't believe that you can get the picture with. I'm telling you, we can get the picture with
I know.
Santa.
Wyatt used to be afraid of Santas.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't bother to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I just
and
didn't bother to
either.
go
I didn't
because
either.
who's going to stand in line all that time just to have your child looked at like he's a pariah?
Exactly.
Right? So, but I think sometimes the knowing that they're going to get the toy makes
Yeah.
the parent come.
Right.
Because they're like.
So it's a great thing. So we encourage everybody to come this weekend.
So I've got to go mop down now that I've just cried all over the
right.
place. We're going to take a break. We know that we've gone over. We're still waiting for our guests to arrive. It's just how we're doing it today.
Yeah, just
And
gonna keep
she's
talking.
driven a long way, so we're not giving up on her. We're going to check in and see how far away she is, and we'll come back and talk
come
about
back.
something
Okay.
else. So stick with us.
What is autism? What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
What is autism?
I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to, just,
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a big one. Yes.
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
Is a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love.
The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Potty training is different for every child. A child could come in with absolutely, no control over their bladder, and as long as that's not a medical issue, then we can certainly approach it behaviorally and give them the tools they need to be successful, just like any other skill that we would teach.
Well, we think he's learning to pee on the potty. No big successes yet, and lots of accidents. Here is the laundry from today.
For some of our kids takes, just a couple days. And then for other kids, it can take months and months and months. And then when you're looking at complete independence, it can take years.
Hey, you have to go pee-pee?
There's a lot of different ways to tell if a child is ready. We look for a couple different things. Probably the most important is parents saying, I need this to happen, I'm ready. Second is, a child showing interest in the bathroom, and some of it is simply age. It's time to go ahead and work on this.
What are you doing? Pooping.
You're pooping?
You first start with teaching the child what they need to do on the toilet. The basic thing we want is for them to drink as much liquid as possible. It's inevitable that if you drink a bunch of liquid, you're gonna pee.
No, I can't help you pee. I can hold your hand, but I can't help you pee.
Ultimately, what we want is that, the child, as soon as they're put on the toilet, they urinate. So that's step 1. Step 2 is usually working through the amount of time that they're off of the toilet and making sure that they're not having accidents during the time that they're off. So this is kind of the bladder control stage of things.
So the purpose of the potty log is just to see how long it takes them as soon as they sit on the potty for them to actually urinate, and the amount of time that he's able to hold his urine. And with the log, we're able to visually see how long it takes them each time, and if they have accidents or not. He's on a half-hour potty schedule, so if he doesn't go when we take him, then we have to take him in 10 more minutes. So every 10-minute intervals until he does go, and then we reset the clock, and it's 30 minutes again.
Okay, buddy. Okay, last chance to go pee-pees. Do we reset it for 10?
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jack? It's potty time! We can come play after. Hurry!
What we hope happens in this time is that the kids will learn how to initiate going to the bathroom on their own. This is oftentimes the hardest part of potty training, is because they get so used to somebody telling them when they need to go that they're not really recognizing the signs just in their own body of when they need to go.
Oh, he wet himself.
Uh-oh. Big wet?
Was it a lot? We can reset to half an hour now.
The biggest thing for parents is not to give up. The other big tip, and I think pitfall that a lot of parents fall into, is putting their children back into pull-ups or diapers, especially if they're starting to have accidents. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do. They need to recognize that feeling of fullness in their bladder and take themselves to the bathroom, or tell an adult that they need to go to the bathroom.
What do you have to do? You have to put your pee-pee in the potty. Okay, give it a shot. See if you can put it in there.
There you go. You're doing it. Yay, Jack.
Big prayer for your pee-pee.
Big prayer for pee-pee.
Yay! Woo! Yay! Good job.
What a big boy. High five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five, high five.
Adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with ACT Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
We're back as promised, right?
Yes, and you've been waiting. Our guest arrived, and we're
Elena
so glad that we
Ramasa.
got you here and that you're here safe. And look what she brought with her. We've got a studio full of seats.
Yes, from Convade and R82, where Melina Ramasa, our guest, is marketing communications manager. And you brought in a new car seat that we're very excited about.
I did. It's the R82 Wallaroo. It was just launched last month. We've been long waiting for this, and it's a phenomenal car seat. It's a part of our portfolio, our growing portfolio, I might add. It complements the Carrot 3 car seat and the Carrot 3 booster seat. It's a really robust chair. It's very comfy. It's particularly cozy to those needing a little extra love and care, a little more cushioning, such as the kids living within the autism spectrum. And it's a super safe car seat. And we have another one coming out probably at the beginning of the year, but it doesn't have a name yet. But we're very proud of the Wallaroo, and we're really excited that we're headed towards being a global leader in this whole car seat space for kids living with special needs.
Well, we love Convade and R82.
You played Santa to one of our ACT Today families not too long ago when you donated a car seat to a mom who was having a carrot,
which
and
was
that was life changing for them.
Absolutely. That mom who wasn't able to go anywhere because her son could
get out of his car seat,
and it was just too flimsy, and she had looked and found the carrot and said, "This is what I need," and you guys gave it to her. So we love what you make, but we also love your generosity.
You do.
So I'm thrilled to have you. We had you on to talk about this little guy before. This is the scallop, and we showed the commercial for
you
it.
Talk about
so
it
talk
a
little bit about that and what it has to do with the Wallaroo.
Oh, well, they're unrelated products except for the fact that they're both seating products. This is a transportation product. That's for children with mild to moderate involvement. What's happening now is, yes, we're giving this Wallaroo away, but we have a special. Our Cyber Monday is lasting through the end of the year. So when anyone buys a Wallaroo now, they get a free scallop. So
how long is that?
Through December 31st.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, that's a special that we have running, and also we have another special running, which is the scallop. You buy one, you get one for 50%. So kind of in the spirit of giving. You buy one, you can always gift one to someone in your circle of friends and family, and that's what we're doing for the holiday season.
Absolutely love it. For anybody who's got a child that has any different needs, and really it is that broad of a situation, because it could be that your child has autism, because for kids with autism, they've got all these sensory different issues, and sometimes getting them safe in a car is the thing that keeps you up at night.
Very
right,
tough.
Nancy?
Wyatt used to wiggle out of his car seat all the time, and we have families that write us at ACT Today that they have these issues, with keeping their children safe, keeping them constrained to a degree that is safe and natural, and this certainly meets that need.
I once got a traffic ticket because I was going through an intersection and Jem had taken off his shoes and thrown them at me because he was having a bit of a meltdown.
Right.
And then for the first time ever, he got himself out of the car seat, and I was supposed to turn, and I did not have an arrow to turn, and I was so freaked out about what was happening that I wanted to get us off the road. So I turned and pulled over before I even noticed that a policeman was behind me with lights going.
Right.
And he pulled over and he said, lights license and registration, and I just burst into tears. And I tried to tell him, my son is, got out of his car seat, and he, he didn't want to hear about it.
Right.
I'd done something unsafe, and I got the traffic ticket because my child wasn't properly secured. And I had, I had the car seats that people, you
we
go
buy.
to places
Right.
and get whatever that aren't what we need for our kids.
No, because they don't keep them safe. They don't keep them protected.
Plus,
And
which
this
our
is-
kids need a seat for longer.
Right.
They just do.
They do.
And
For they're older,
For
generally.
everybody's, and when they're older and they're bigger and whatever,
How
this
long
is
does
a
this
substantial
accommodate?
seat.
How old can a child be, and how large can a child
It
be?
accommodates a lot of growth. I mean, it's you can see that it looks like an oversized car seat, which
Right.
it is, a
Right.
child restraint system. And it'll accommodate children. It'll go from very, very young toddlers all the way up to a child that's well into almost to their youth.
Okay.
Wow.
For the larger children, we still have the Convade 3 booster seat, which will
Okay.
accommodate even adult-sized children.
Okay.
Or adult-sized people for that
Right.
matter, and up to, I think the carrot is up to 165 pounds.
Okay.
This, I think, is up to about 120,
That's
something
a good.
like that.
That's good.
So there's quite a bit of capacity in the entire car seat line.
Right.
What the moms that are starting to use the Wallaroo are telling me, especially the moms with children within the spectrum, is that they can't wiggle out of them. I mean, they're comfortable enough, they have enough padding, and they're comfortable enough in the size that the kids actually enjoy it. It kind of soothes them, it calms them, and it makes them feel protected without being overly confining.
Right.
So, we're having some really good initial response.
Good.
I also love with all of your seats that the length of them is substantially longer in terms of the legs, and the padding is different, because one of the things that I know from our family, we grow really long-legged people in my family, and for the kiddos, what happens is that their feet go to sleep when they have to hang over too far, and then when you've got a child on the autism spectrum, their feet go to sleep, and that's a very unpleasant sensory
right.
feeling, and then you start getting a tantrum and you don't even know what happened that caused the tantrum. But I love your seats because that doesn't happen. So truly amazing. When you came in with this thing, this is a substantial seat. Kind of when you look at it, it just looks like, okay, this is a good sized car seat. But let me just say to you guys, this is an amazing, this is like, the Cadillac of
car
this,
seats.
Yeah.
It
right?
is a Cadillac. It's forward facing. It's very comfortable. I mean, I'm a little big to sit in them, but I've had my coworkers who are a little more, let's say, demure, try to sit in them. It's a very comfortable
Right.
seat to sit in.
And for a big seat, there is a way that you can recline this seat. There's a wedge that you can put under it so that it's not sliding. I just think it's a really amazing thing, and I love that it's called a Wallaroo.
Tell us how people can get it.
Well, we have an 800 number, section 844 number. 844 U.S. Mobility is the number that anyone can call to order.
844 U.S. Mobility.
Yes, ma'am.
And it comes in 3 colors.
Yes, it comes in a gray, and it comes in a blue, and it comes in this Christmas red to match your outfits.
We didn't
She
plan
didn't
this.
even know that we were
no
all
idea.
matched.
I could have brought a gray one or a blue one, but I just thought, holidays,
Right.
red,
Absolutely.
bring the red one.
And then, of course, there's the scallop, which we love these too. This is a very clever thing, and so
You saw the
portable.
video that we ran
Yes,
on that.
and we've had the designer, the original designer on the show before. I love that you can just fold it up and carry it.
It's like a
Go off to the beach.
you can use it as a tote.
But when you've got a little one who's having trouble with the fidgets or
Right.
a little bit of core
They need some more
stuff,
support.
they need support to be able to sit and focus. So often people write into us and say, how do I get my kid to pay attention during circle time?
Yeah.
And of course we talk about building up to it, but part of it too is that for some of our kids, sitting the crisscross applesauce that the teacher always says is hard for them.
Right.
Because they feel wobbly and they feel unsafe, and then they're interested in this and whatever.
This gives them a nice
Whereas
cocooning effect.
It's almost like the Temple Grandin cow squisher thing that it hugs
Sensory.
them, so they get that sensory input. It prevents them from wobbling all over the place. It feels really nice. Plus, they have the support.
Right.
That if they lean back, it's a lot of those kids when it's circle time, they want to go sit in somebody's lap. If mom or dad is sitting there,
Right.
they can sit and listen. Well, this is that, but with the freedom of it, of being able to go and do circle time or switch when they move to different circles and take their own little seat with them. It's that autonomy that we want for our
right.
kids all the time. What a fabulous thing. And so if you get a Wallaroo right now, between now and the end of the year, you get a scallop
Yeah.
that comes with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's such a great deal.
Right.
I'm going to break some amazing news
Okay,
here first
right now.
on
Okay,
Autism
tell
Live
us, tell us.
regarding the scallop.
Okay.
This scallop was selected out of hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of entrants to the Smithsonian Cooper Hewlett Abilities exhibition that starts now on December 15th. Our little scallop is on the front page of that particular exhibit.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an honor.
So
It's really
fabulous.
an honor. So we're really excited. It'll be in the museum starting the 15th of December. And what we've worked out is that we're going to have a number of scallops there so that people, so anyone who needs a little extra support,
Yeah.
children or adults within a certain weight range, of course,
Right.
will be able to use our scallop while viewing the exhibit or
That's
watching
great.
different audio video presentations.
That's great, Melina.
Well, and I just, I think I might have said this the last time you were on the show, but I think you got to start making these adult size.
I know, I want one.
I want one. When, when people go to concerts here, we go to the Hollywood
I know,
Bowl,
yeah.
and, people bring their little seats to sit on, but it doesn't give you any back support
No.
whatsoever. And now, because my son is on a robotics team, he has all these competitions where I'm sitting on all these bleachers, and I want one.
Kira,
So,
if you're listening,
you need to
we
make
need a
adult ones.
scallop 5.
Exactly.
For adults, right.
We
Yeah.
need for my size rear end, so that might be a scallop 6 or 7.
5.5.
Not you. I'm
We'll
speaking
have
just
it
for
built
me.
to me, and then I'm sure that we'll all be fine.
I'll go on a diet to fit. But in any case, these are amazing. And scallops, where can they get them?
Also, the 844 U.S. Mobility, it's the number that's always been for our customer service,
Okay.
and they can certainly buy it there.
And whatever car seat need you might have, you got to start with looking at Convade and R82. I mean, honestly, it's going to be well worth your time to take a look, because these are things that last.
Yeah, these are products that
these
are quality.
And when we're talking about
the construction,
safety
yeah.
for our kids, you need to get the right thing, and this
And
is where you
feel
need to
secure.
start. Yes, feel secure knowing that you're driving and that you're safe and that your kid is safe and that they're not going to get out of the, it's insane.
It's a nightmare.
Yes, to have to deal with that.
So
and
many
worry
of us
about that.
have lived through, and we don't want anybody out there to live through.
Absolutely. Anything else we left out?
No, I think you've pretty much got it. You just some other product features is that this liner is totally washable,
Right.
removable.
Okay, that's great to have.
It keeps everything fresh and crisp. But,
Right.
sometimes there's accidents, and when there are, know that you just remove it,
Right.
launder it, put it back. It's fine. It's not a problem. It comes with additional positioning, little wedges and things should you need them. And like I said, it comes in the different colors, the
Right.
blue and the gray. So
It's
any
a
car.
fabulous thing. So check this out.
Make a
Convey
good Christmas present.
R82. Yeah, absolutely. And then to be able to have the scallop as well. What a wonderful, wonderful thing. Thank you so much for fighting
Yes,
through the
thank you,
traffic
Melina.
to get
We're
to be
sorry
with
that
us.
Oh, thank you for
It's a
having
hassle to
us.
get here, but
And
Never hassled.
And we want to
Sorry
thank
be
everybody
here.
for staying with us on the air so that we could accommodate and have you
Yes,
here
thank
and
you.
be on the show. Tomorrow on the show, we've got some amazing more toys that we're going to be reviewing, and we've got game expert Ben Williams is going to be with us to teach me how to play Magic the Gathering. It's one of the toys featured on our guide. Don't forget, sign up now for Sensitive Santa that's happening this Saturday, and I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
and yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Me too.